this is the little room I see on your...
Yes, you see a different angle usually. You see this angle on. I used to have it that angle, but I'm still moving stuff. I'm waiting to get this other desk as well on this side, make it an L. That way it can have better camera angles and then all that good stuff.
Nice.
Yes, we're in a lot.
Perfect little room for this.
It is. I actually love it. Is there a pen? Nah, it doesn't matter. It's all good. Okay, all right. We're live.
Yay.
Okay, so we're on YouTube and we're currently recording onto that SD right there. So eventually it will be uploaded through my Mac and to everything else. So
Nice.
It's been a long time coming.
I know.
Hasn't it? I know we've been trying to do this for how long? Like 2 months, 3 months now?
I feel like longer. We talked about this like before Thanksgiving.
Definitely. It was a while. No, trust me. I was trying to get there as well, but I got sick and all that shit.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You disappeared for a while.
About 3 months I was out for, and that's what kind of made me actually get into all this stuff here. So It was actually a blessing in disguise almost in a way. So that's just good. So what generally made me want to, talk to you was I followed you on Instagram and I was like, this girl's got some flexibility, So if you know anything about me, I'm a little bit of a gym nut, previously before I lost everything through my sickness. But, I'm always fascinated on the body, on what it could do, So and seeing what your body can do and like.
You came up to me, you're talking about.
I know, no, I know, and I could tell I was freaking you out just a little bit. I was
loved it though. I know. Oh, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I was like, when you're toes are pointed this way, your head of your femur inside of your actual socket is moving this way, and it's not supposed to do that.
It's not twisting.
Exactly. So we'll go off that. Just introduce yourself to people and who you are and what you do.
Yeah, I'm Vashti Walters, and I'm a professional ballet dancer and ballet teacher. I've been dancing since I was 13, so I kind of started a little bit late, and I just took a lot of classes and just went 100% in to catch up.
Lovely.
And I started dancing in Texas, and then a little company here in Tampa drew my attention, so that's why I moved here. And I was there for a few years, and then decided to move down to St. Pete because some other dance opportunities came up there, and I could dance more often. So.
Texas.
Yeah.
I didn't know you're from Texas. Where are you from, Texas, or you just lived there a little bit?
I was born in Florida, but we moved a year later to South Carolina, and I was there for a while, and then Texas, and then back here.
Really?
Yeah.
Which place did you like more?
Here is definitely my favorite. I was born in Orlando.
Jesus.
But St. Pete's my favorite. I lived in Dallas and then Greenville, South Carolina. So.
Okay, and you like it here just in St. Pete in general?
Yeah.
Why is it just like the culture in itself, the people?
Yeah, I just like the feel, and there's a lot to do. I feel like in Texas there's a lot to do, but it's so hot that everything has to be inside. You have to pay for everything. There's not a lot of natural outdoors things to do.
A lot of people are moving to Texas right now.
Yeah,
it's
a
really
growing
good thing
for jobs.
Yeah, stuff, 2 places that are growing right now is Texas and actually Florida right now.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people moving to Florida too.
Yeah, so our current employer is just like enjoying like making more stores and all that stuff for all that. So they're needing managers and all that stuff. So that's why you see all this stuff of people. Exactly, because taxes for one of them, especially in New York and all that stuff going on.
Yeah.
Taxes are increased, so everyone wants to leave. Especially those famous people. They don't want to pay that. So
True,
they're coming down over here.
Florida's the
exactly. No, like we have like a bunch of famous streamers who streaming game or just people who do podcasts. They actually moved already down here,
So
and
crazy.
there's about 7 of them, and people are like, we just had a wrestler just move down here as well. I'm not a big wrestling fan, but he was in our store about like 2 days ago, and I was like, who the fuck is this giant dude? He was like 7 foot, like 300 pounds. I'm like, this guy could kill me. Like I was just fascinated, and he just moved here for that same reason.
It's amazing. It's amazing how many famous people are so close to
St.
us.
Pete and Tampa is going crazy.
Like I've heard about even just the Lightning players sometimes coming through our store. I don't know all their faces that well, but people point out, oh, that guy's on the team.
Right now, we have, I believe the WWE is training over at Tropicana ever since Corona started. So that's why we see a lot of the wrestlers coming in our store and all that stuff. So that explains for that. But I don't know many about sports either as well. I don't watch that kind of stuff anyways. But a little fun fact I wanted to transition to is I used to dance. I think that's how we actually got like kind of like started in the beginning. I don't know if you remember that. I danced about like age of like 11. It was in hip hop,
Okay, so, yes.
Exactly. And I actually ended up finding a group of friends, in school, and we just stayed after school.
That's the kind of dance I wish I knew how to do. It looks
what, hip-hop?
So cool. Yeah.
Don't you do hip-hop classes?
I've taken a couple, but I don't do it consistently.
Really?
So I look like a little chicken when I try to do it.
You're a little lengthy. I can see that. You're a little lengthy. Is it weird for you?
It's so opposite of ballet because it's much more grounded, I feel, and you have to move your body in just such a different way.
Much more grounded. Explain.
Like in ballet, you're so lifted up all the time.
Proper
you're
almost?
stretching your legs as much as they can. And I think in hip hop, you have to really bend your knees to get with the movement.
You feel like there's more fluidity in there?
Fluidity in a different way.
In a different way? Okay.
Yeah, it's just a different approach to.
I'm just throwing fucking terms out here. So yeah, if I'm saying the wrong term, correct me. Okay. So I don't do this like as much as you. So
yeah, just a different, completely different style.
Really?
Yeah.
So what drew you to ballet instead of any other form?
I was homeschooled, and one day my mom was like looking over my schedule for the next school year. She's like, "What about you try a dance class this year?" And I was like, only if my friend does it with me. I'm not going to do this by myself. So we went to this little recreation center, and we were both 13 with a class of 7-year-olds just doing ballet, just something random. We decided to try. And the teacher there eventually pulled me aside and said, "You should go to an actual ballet studio. I think you could catch up." And I loved it. And I just decided to really take it seriously. My mom was always like, "Okay, but this isn't going to be your career." It was her idea for me to start it. But she's like, "Wait a second.
Yeah.
Don't make this your career. This will be a hobby, but I'll let you try this."
Oh, okay. I see.
Getting more and
so
more
you kind of got that energy from her. You could tell like she didn't want you to like kind of like pursue this like
At
in a
first
way.
She was a little nervous about it, but the more I did it and the more she learned about it, she's like, "Okay, I think you can make this work." So she's
really
very supportive of it for sure. But at first,
how long have you been doing this?
It's about 8 years now. So,
8 years.
Yeah, about 8 years this past winter. So.
Oh, you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
I don't, like, apologize if this sounds like arrogant in any way, but I don't really see maybe it's because I'm not into that realm, I don't see famous ballet dancers or anybody who's like made a huge.
Yeah, it's not
outbreak,
made as big of a deal of as sports.
For sure, yeah.
And movie stars and stuff. But I say most people have heard of people like Misty Copeland. She's a dancer for American Ballet Theater, and it was a really big deal because she was the first African-American principal dancer of a major company. Mm-hmm. And so she's gone to be in lots of different movies, and she tours around. Actually, she gave a presentation at my dad's company the other day. Completely unrelated to dance, but she's kind of really big. So, example of a dancer,
kind of like a small world,
becoming more well known. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, what would one do to make an actual like career out of ballet? Besides opening a studio, because I know a lot of people go down that route. Yeah. And maybe if you're a well-known name, you would open a studio and you can get decent traction.
Yeah.
What would you do after that? Would it be more like doing seminars maybe, or maybe like little tours and like meet and greets
to just get on a ballet career? Typically, you have to train. I technically haven't been dancing a long time in comparison to most people my age. They kind of start when they're babies. Okay. The training doesn't really get serious until you're more around 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
But you train seriously, every day, all those years, all throughout school, and then typically you audition at the end of high school for different companies. So you audition everywhere, just trying to get a job, because especially girls, there's thousands of girls who are all as good as you. Okay. So you have to audition everywhere.
So what's so special about these companies? I'm assuming they're kind of like recruiters in a way.
Ballet companies vary in different sizes and styles of dance, but that's just like interviewing for something in your field. We audition for different ballet companies. That's where you have the best chance of having a career, a safe job, is signing a contract with a ballet company.
Okay.
So that's your most typical route for ballet dancers.
Okay, and how long does that usually last? About 4 years, maybe a contract, 2 years?
It depends on the company.
Okay.
But most dancers will dance professionally with a company for anywhere from 10 to 20 years.
Really?
Mm-hmm. But I don't know how often they re-up their contracts and have meetings.
So it is kind of like sports almost in a way. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm just making that correlation because I know sports more than anything. Okay, exactly. I see what you're saying. So you're out of school, right? So what are you doing to pursue your career?
Yeah. Well, once I graduated high school, I had an apprenticeship with Tampa Ballet Theater Ballet. And that's just how ballet companies work. They have apprenticeships that get you into the company.
Okay.
So it's like a 100% scholarship kind of thing. And then after that, I was in their company for a couple years. And then I found out about St. Petersburg Ballet Conservatory, which it's in the process of starting a company, but they weren't there yet. So I decided to dance there on my free time to get a little bit of extra dancing in, because the company I was dancing for was small and I needed more to achieve my personal goals. And I just really liked their vision and where they were going. So I decided to move down here and join them full time. And then COVID happened. So ballet companies across the world kind of really struggled because we can't have audiences.
Okay. All right. Like almost any other, like, you know, audience-based sport or, you know, any entertainment, it's kind of like that as well.
And theaters are just they're having a really hard time getting everything safe to open up again, even harder than sports, because we still have people come for the Super Bowl and things like that. Yeah. And theaters are just much slower.
Yeah, I can see that because there's probably less of a demand. That's probably, it's such a smaller niche in a way that, you know, it's the ones who are in a higher demand will get that attention in that like first like outbreak out of that like controlled, you know, COVID.
So hard. Yeah.
Really?
So
I can see that.
So the timing for me personally though was good because I
want to hear this. All right, continue. No, this sounds great. All right.
So I left my company where I was being paid to dance to join a place where I would be dancing for free because they hadn't started their company yet. I teach ballet full time, so that's how I make a living. But then COVID happened, so nobody was making money dancing, and nobody had a contract.
Gotcha.
So I wasn't weird. I was kind of in a good spot. Yeah. Most people weren't able to dance.
Exactly. You're like, I'm like everybody else almost in a way. You know, you didn't feel like you were
Don't pay
outcasted.
attention to the fact that I chose to do this. But I needed to because it was the opportunity that gave me. It was a chance to dance far more than I ever have and perform a lot more.
Because you have more time, is that why?
Just this place had the facility to provide more than the small company I was at. They had more performance opportunities, and they have a huge building, so they don't always have to rent a theater to perform. We can set up a theater in our building.
Got it, okay.
So we have more opportunity there, and then I knew that they were about to start a company, so I could just hold on for a season. Okay. Season goes like usually from the fall to late spring.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like this time was like you brushing the blade off for a second, polishing on like things you may need to work on in a way.
Extra training in the
exactly.
meantime,
So focusing on yourself. Yeah. I actually just talked about this not too long ago with a couple of followers of mine on what I game on Twitch, obviously. They were saying, you know, how a lot of people were upset or just depressed on the whole entire situation of us being locked down and being by ourselves in a way. And I said, well, that's a failure of being able to look at yourself in a third person aspect, to being able to see what this is a great time to capitalize on who I am as a person. You know, and there's other people obviously who got affected with no jobs and, you know, and that's excluding them. But the people like us who were okay for the most part, it was a perfect time for us to, you know, look at ourselves in the mirror and say, well, I'm by myself. I can't really do a lot of things. What would I like to be as a person? What am I lacking that I haven't confronted about myself in a way?
We get so busy, we brush all that aside.
Exactly.
We don't really think enough.
Exactly. And this is why people are having huge issues with staying at home. Depression's going up. I mean, no matter what you say, humans do need interaction with other people, and that's without a doubt. I'm not saying we don't, but you know, when you're already in this psychological battle, if you don't like who you are as a person, like I think most people in our age is, you know, we're told to go to school, do these things, you know, live that 9 to 5 maybe and just do that. So we're sitting here in this box, you know, and then when you're unhappy with that and then you're at home, you know, in that box as well. Exactly. And some people don't. Some people turn to drinking. Some people turn to other things, you know, some people just go out and, you know, they never do that. So I thought it was a great time to capitalize on those kinds of things. I heard
about a lot of people having a really hard time with that. And it was interesting to me. I think I was lucky just in the fact that where I went with my career, I was really forced to think about what do I want? Who am I? Because most people were like, why are you not going to college? Like, that's so
Is that something that's kind of like pressed in your family in a way?
My family did not press me. My brother is going to college full ride, and it makes sense for his career, and it's great for him, but they absolutely did not require me to go, and that was great. But lots of more extended family and friends, why wouldn't you go to college? You're wasting your opportunities.
You gotta love those when you meet them at a backyard barbecue and they're sitting there, what are you doing? Like, Jesus, here we go. This is what I gotta do.
Yeah, gotta defend it.
Oh yeah, and then you gotta explain it, and you can kind of see it in their eyes. They're like, oh, they don't like this.
When are you gonna get a real job?
When are you gonna play it safe? You know,
you're gonna flip burgers your whole life.
Exactly.
Like, there's nothing else you can do.
Okay, so it seems like you took this time perfectly well to grow as a person in a way. All right, so here's a couple questions I have in general as the art you do. Can anybody do it? Because I would imagine, you know, some people need to be genetically kind of made for it in a way, and maybe they benefit more when they enter there, you know, like. I
would say anybody can, but some people have a leg up.
Okay, perfect. I get your point there. Wow.
Anybody can. You know, some people aren't born with the facility that makes it so easy and everything comes naturally to them, but they are so determined to do it that they make it happen. So I'd say 99% of people, if they want it, they can do it. It just might take a lot more effort, and they might not have as many doors open to them as other people might, just with gifts they were born with and were outside their control. But ballet is definitely changing too, to see that ballet can conform to different kinds of people.
Have you seen the growth in the 8 years?
Yeah,
Kind
I'd
of?
say the past couple years I've noticed a lot of change in companies.
I can see that definitely, because I was never like in hip hop for that long of a time, but I was in there for a hard 5 years, and like my mom did the same thing your mom did. It was like, I think you shouldn't really do this, and unfortunately, like, and especially my Latin culture, it's pretty much forced. Help your family out in their job, what they do. Help the family out. The Latin. That's why most of the Latin cultures have a hard time branching off and making their own success. So I actually left hip hop, and I was very upset at my mom for that for a long time. But I mean, I was never really going to go anywhere because I fell in love with a lot more other things. But as in, since I wasn't in there, I was able still to see the growth in hip hop. I mean, and I feel like social media, especially Instagram,
that's changed a lot.
Right? It's got more eyes.
It's opened people's eyes to it.
Exactly. So you probably seen the growth in that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because I remember I would talk to people about, I don't know if you ever heard of a show. It was on ABC. It was ABDC, I believe it was called. America's Best Dance Crew. Exactly.
Oh.
There were season 1, 2, 3, and it went to like 12 seasons. That George Lopez was on there. No, the other Lopez. I don't know who you know. The guy who plays Skeeter, I think.
I don't know.
Damn it, you guys make me feel old. Whatever. But it was a great show, and I remember I would talk to people. No one ever knew about it, and like I remember, like, even after the show was canceled, for some reason it got a blow up again, and like everybody like got into hip hop, and I was like, well, where was this when I wanted friends to dance with and all that?
Trendy.
And then I realized like social media's got more eyes on it, and when social media came out, like Instagram, I mean, I say Instagram a lot because there's this short we're human to like things fast.
Spans.
Exactly. Especially now more than ever. So with Instagram, you can get it, just like that. So people see something, oh, that's cool, let me like that, let me follow, and then it'll go to the page. And then there's this career path you can take. And I think people saw that, especially like you could do that with dance now in a way,
Yeah, I'm glad more people are seeing.
Exactly.
ballet.
So you probably saw that grow a lot,
A lot more people are taking interest in it, and we're able to see the insides of companies. We'd never get to see what it's like on the day-to-day life because people have live streams, and the company dancers will show their individual lives. So we just get a lot more insight now and things that were always just in the back. And
really? So do you have like a certain group of like people that you kind of watch continuously?
Oh, yeah.
They're like kind
I
of
have several well-known dancers that I follow. I always get my inspiration from.
Really? Like who?
Let's see. Marianela Nunez. She's a Royal Ballet principal dancer. Like anyone who's a ballet dancer knows who she is. And
really?
She's just iconic.
You threw the name Royal in there.
Royal Ballet in London. That's like my inspiration company. My roommate makes fun of me. He calls me ballet nerd because I'll sit there for like 2 hours at night watching their rehearsals.
I
and their
love
classes.
that. No, that's good. That's good. That means you are truly passionate with what you like doing.
Oh, it's amazing. Like when I first started dance, I started late and I was so excited about it.
You started late?
Yeah, well, 13 is late to start ballet fresh. It sounds young to a lot of people. But when you're in the ballet world, you just get used to the fact that most people start when they're about 5 or 6. Because at 13, everybody knows the basics of ballet at that point. And so I came in, not knowing any of it, just having to catch up, which is not unheard of. People have done it, but it's just not common. So I'd watch ballet videos all the time. And it's interesting how just watching it really helps you catch up and understand it better because you get this image in your head. And I started just picking up on all the terminology and understanding how to translate the movements into my body faster.
So you're on YouTube a lot, essentially.
Yes, I have spent many hours on YouTube University.
You can learn so much on YouTube. It's not even funny. Just by watching, it doesn't have to be a class or anything. Like you could just watch and replay. How did that person do that? And you could just go by play.
It's such a gift. I love it.
So this is what you do when you're eating dinner. You pull up YouTube on your laptop.
Exactly. That is me right there at my table. I set it up in front of me.
Yeah, exactly. You see an upload that day. Like, I'm gonna wait to the end of the day to watch it.
Save it. Watch it later.
Oh Jesus, you are in deep. You are in deep in this. So you said 13 is where you want to know all the basics. This is where you should know everything by now. Exactly. And then that's when you can really advance and figure out what kind of dancer you are going to become. I'm assuming after that.
Yeah, you start working on honing in on your technical skills.
So let me put this in perspective on how crazy that sounds. So in martial arts, right, we have, when I was a kid, I did karate, I did kung fu, and then I did boxing and Muay Thai. Okay, those are the main things I did. a young age starting, you know, around, maybe now it's a little bit earlier because now social media, people throw their kids in a lot earlier. But at least back then, you didn't want to throw your kid in there unless they were about like 7 years old, 10 years old. So to say that, you know, and this is a physical like contact sport where you're getting punched in the head, kicked in the head, you know, but to be 6 and 5 and you want to be like in that age at a starting point is crazy. Like it is crazy when you think about the body development as well, you know. So
starting younger, sometimes it helps them to stay open, like in their hips,
really
more easily because they're more flexible when they're kids. Okay. And so if you start young, it trains those muscles to hold the rotation earlier on.
Hold the rotation.
Those
making that mind to body connection to where it can actually hold that position a little longer, because you guys do a lot of static positions. Like one thing I know from what I've seen, at least, is, you know, you guys will start on a movement, right? And it'll flow, and then there'll be this part where you kind of like explode for a second, and there's a pause, and you're holding it. Yeah, you know, it's usually while you're on the exactly. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, that seems like it's hard to do, you know, because you're going in this motion and now you're static all of a sudden. You're just right there.
Suddenly move and then stop.
Exactly. And you got to hold it. And then I feel like you guys are getting judged a lot off of that one particular moment, is how well you can hold it. It's kind of like gymnastics in a way, you know, like you have this routine you got to do. And if you don't stick that landing right, which, you know, you could have the best routine in the world, but if you don't stick that landing,
finish it,
that could ruin everything, you know. So I feel like you guys have a lot of pressure on you when you guys do that.
We do. We have a lot of those moments where everybody's watching this thing, you know it's coming, you have to do this right. But then in ballet too, we have to, I'm sure they do this in gymnastics, but the little in-between parts also counts a lot.
Really?
So those in-between steps that most people don't notice, you don't notice them because we've worked on them a lot.
Really?
Yeah. If we don't work on them, you're going to notice our feet just flopping anywhere.
The details you're talking about. It's like those details that will stick out if you don't perfect them. Like,
exactly.
Okay,
so
I see what you're saying.
Some things not so noticeable. That shows that you're doing it right.
Really?
Yeah, we won't make people think that they can do it if they try.
No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. No, that makes 100% sense. You know, like it's where people are, I can do that. You're like, I guarantee you couldn't do that, because the amount of work I had to put into that, you have no idea. You know, those are the details is what makes anything. You know, if you like you said, you can have the foundation, everything right, but if those details are missing, it will throw everything away. So that makes sense how you say that. So what fascinates me and what I asked you originally is, you're very tall.
Yes.
You're tall. I mean, look at me. Like, my mom thinks I'm tall, you know? My mom sees me. She's like, wow, mijo, you are so tall. I'm like, Mom, I'm literally so short in America. You have no idea. Like, the average height is about 6 foot, okay? And how tall are you?
I'm 6 feet.
Okay. Fucking here we go. Yeah, exactly, okay? Yeah. So, you know, I would assume you kind of have a, as you would say, leg up in this industry. Would you say so?
Actually, being tall, especially as tall as I am, is a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to getting in a big company, because the average girl is about 5'6", and they want people to match in height. Really? So most companies prefer to have most of their girls around the same height, or they have a lot of each height range. So let's say some company has a lot of tall and short, but they have a good amount of both. So at least they can have a group that all matches.
I was going to ask you that. They would have groups essentially.
Yeah. So basically, I can't audition for companies that don't have a good amount of each height range.
So you're kind of at a disadvantage.
So I went to audition a couple years ago for places, and I would look up some companies and say, women, height limit 5'6". Men, height limit 6'3". And I'm like, I can dance with a guy who's 6'3". But I'm almost 6 feet, and then on point, that adds me a few more inches.
Really?
And the visual line is very important to people, especially directors. So you have to, look a little harder to find companies sometimes that have more of everything. So
you have judges in competition?
Sometimes we compete. Okay. That's optional.
Do you not like to compete?
I think it can be a good performance opportunity, but I think that's not the point of dance. Okay. It's an art and a sport, but the art aspect of it means a lot is up to interpretation, and people's personal opinion. So it's kind of hard to judge it. Okay. How they feel, but we do have ballet competitions where they just judge a lot of based on your technique and things like that. But that's mostly for students. Adults don't really compete. Professionals don't compete.
Got it. So it feels like you kind of have almost like this weird taste for competition almost. Do you feel like some of the judging's unfair?
No, I don't think it's unfair. I just think
perspective?
Not the main point of ballet.
Okay, so you would say this is not okay. I see what you're saying.
If you're going to compete, do it mostly for the experience.
Okay.
Because you could get a great score on the same exact dance. It just depends on, or a not great score. It just depends on who's watching you sometimes. If your technique is good, then everybody should agree on that. But when it comes to artistry and how they feel you're presenting yourself, that can vary. And lots of times there's just so many people who are equally good, and not everybody can win first place.
Exactly. So yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
You don't want to put yourself down. It's not that you're not as good. Not everybody can win.
So you are deeply in love with this art. I can tell. Like, you're just sitting there. You're like, everybody, this is what we all do together. You know, you kind of, I can see where you're coming from now as in that perspective. Okay. So let's get a little nerdy here. To train hip mobility and flexibility, okay? Because flexibility and mobility are two different things, okay? What do you have to do?
I was fortunate. I was born with very open hips. I'm
about to nerd out. Let's go. Come on.
My mom told me when I was born they put 2 diapers on me because
my
hips were so open that I was just like flailing out. So like, keep her in. So
that's funny.
And then I, of course, didn't dance for the first few years of my life. And so when I took my first classes, I would be like trying to do a split, and like halfway down, like, oh, this hurts. I can't do a split. And because the first classes I took, we'd only stretch before we were warm. So the first class I took at an actual ballet studio where we stretched in between bar and center, so the halfway point between class, I went straight down to my split. I'm like, whoa, I can actually do this.
Really?
So, okay. And then ever since then, I can do it without warming up now that my muscles are acclimated to it. But for the most part, my hip rotation is just, I was lucky.
It's an advantage for sure.
Natural.
Okay, so for the body is when you're born, there's very few things in the body that are unique about a person. You know, there's certain things that everyone has. And for the most part, everyone has the same shoulders. Everything is set a certain way. You know, you don't have really an advantage in shoulders. You know, this is a very big issue people have with Olympic lifting, right? So when it comes to Olympic lifting is you have overhead snatches, power cleans, clean and jerks, you know, and there's 2 kind of forms you can do. And one of those forms is you're kind of closer on the overhead press and some are on the Y. And usually to the new person, they're like, oh, that seems like it's unfair, the guy with the Y. Well, no, it's not, because the shoulders, everyone has the same anatomy usually in the shoulder. So there's no advantage. It's just depending on what you're more comfortable with. And you may have stronger rotator cuffs on the end, so you may want to go wider. But the thing that is completely different on everybody is the hips. Okay, so you know your hips are a bucket, right? They sit like this.
I describe them as buckets all the time to my students. That's so funny.
Yes. So exactly. The best way to describe, because it can tilt forward, it can tilt back.
I say don't let your bucket spill forward or backwards.
Exactly. Keep it neutral, and it's just overall walking in life. You know, that's how you want it, because you can develop anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt.
Yeah. So many people sit with it tipped forward.
Exactly, and those will actually cause to have issues. You know, you can get a lot of bad sciatic issues. Exactly. So obviously you could tell I ran through that. That's why I know about that. You know, when you do squatting and all that stuff, you're like, man, why my back hurt? Well, your bucket's actually tipped forward, so now you're having this butt wink at the bottom of the squat.
That's my rant all the time when I teach, all about the bucket.
You can see how important it is, right? Because that affects everything. You know, if that's off, everything gets thrown off. It's the hips are the biggest thing you want to focus on, just a normal day to life, because that affects your SI joint, that it can affect your IT band, that can affect your back, and that can go straight to your rotator cuff.
Yeah, that's why I recommend adults dance for fun, because it's good to fix your alignment.
You can see that, really.
That bad habit of always pitching their hips forward. Whoa. And they have those lower back problems. So once you come into dance, that smooths the lower part of your back out.
Really?
Opposition.
You see that?
All the time, yeah.
Wait, so you're telling me you do like adult dancing, like you'll teach them and like
I teach adults, I have adult classes.
Really? And you can see them and through their motion, can you see like some of those issues kind of like
I've seen them kind of transform how their posture and how they stand. One of my adult students the other day, she's a nurse, and she said someone the other day told her, you just like have this ballerina posture. She's like, oh, I've been taking classes. That's so exciting. It's showing. So
it's actually funny. That's good. No, so that's great. So back on that topic is, so it's like a bucket, and under that bucket you have these sockets, right? And that's the biggest difference on everybody. Okay, those sockets are going to determine how mobile you're going to be in those hip joints, you know. And there is one thing that we do know for sure: men usually do tend to have more of a closed socket. It's just I don't know why, you know,
That's why, in dance you see much more pictures of girls showing off their flexibility.
I would say I've seen men, able to do that, but I think we could both agree that women hold that predominantly correct. So those sockets, and I literally saw you, and because she may not tell you, okay, she's standing in line at work. We won't say our employer. I swear to God, I'm not gonna say it. Okay, she literally will just like have her foot. I'm not kidding. This way, and her torso will be right
She's
here.
She's nodding like, I know.
Okay, it is.
I don't think about
I never
it.
met her. I never met her, and like the first day I'm sitting, I'm like, I'm watching her. I'm stacking by. I'm like, if I get caught, this girl's gonna think I'm a fucking creep. First of all, okay. But I'm like fascinated because I'm like, holy shit, I've never seen anybody with that kind of mobility in their hips, and I'm like. And she's just sitting there pointing her toes, doing calf raises almost. So, and that's when I went up to you and did that.
Think about it. It just feels more comfortable to stand open than parallel.
Well, it's probably because you're used to it now, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I spend all my days doing it.
How often do you watch somebody walking and you could just see like their pattern or their movement? You like watch them from behind. You're like, oh, they're walking inward, kind of.
I mean, I notice when people walk more turned out than usual, like, I do dance. Most people don't walk like that.
Exactly. So that's great to know. So I would imagine I was like, your sockets have to be so open, and your femur and your bone must be pretty large to rotate that kind of direction,
Yeah,
without issues.
Because it's not twisting my knees. Otherwise, I wouldn't
perfect,
be doing
great.
it.
On to the next part is the knee's a consequential joint. It never really does anything wrong. It's a reaction to the ankle or the hip, usually most of the time. Sometimes it'll come from the back later on, whatever. But I was wondering that. I was like, how do you not have knee problems? Because in my head, I see you turning your foot this way, right? And I'm like, that IT band is getting torqued. So it's moving now. So
it's all from the hip.
Now, when you're, I'm assuming you've actually helped kids or, whatever age they are, get a little, or train them in mobility in a way. Do you ever see some of their threshold where you're like, okay, talking from an anatomy standpoint, you're not going to be able to do this?
Oh, yeah. I have all my classes, we start in parallel, and I teach them about their rotator muscles in the back of their leg, and using your butt to control the hip to open out. And if without twisting and taking one foot and then the other and getting into your first position. When everybody demonstrates a first position, we're like, oh, you're a ballerina, let me see it. They twist their feet. Not doing it that way, starting in parallel and using only your muscles to open up. That'll show you what you can naturally rotate from your hips. And so I start with my kids that way. Most of the time when you're a beginner, you'll about have this much, like a small little pizza slice worth of rotation.
Okay, so we've used this phrase before. Got it? Pizza slice?
Yeah, and so then I'll say, okay, if you're going to tendu, which means to stretch your leg to the side, you don't go straight side. You have to follow where your toes point. So if this is my first position, my side is on a diagonal. It's not straight side. Otherwise, I'd be twisting my hips and my knees past their natural rotation.
Exactly. You kind of want to go into that natural, mobility state, know? And there is this thing, at least in Olympic lifting and just even in powerlifting, there's called hypermobility, where you can actually push your body past that threshold. You can get there without pain, but you've all in all have fucked yourself over more because you passed that point, and now you're kind of you've done it so much, your body kind of like loses its exactly. So there's elasticity in the muscle, and once that's stretched out, because no matter what you say, mobility will affect your flexibility sometimes, and you will get no more of that like bounce back in lifting, because you're propelling yourself forward. You're developing all this energy on the way down, and you're propelling yourself forward. So they'll get themselves in a nice wide squat. They'll go super wide on their toes, super wide on their knees, and they will practice that day in, day out. And even though they're not supposed to go that far out of genetically, I'm talking, when they get to that bottom of the squat, they lose all that momentum, and they can't because now they're hypermobile and they developed a little bit of impingement now. And they've actually found out that you can actually shave down some of your femur by going to mobile, essentially. So you can actually do, and that actually, I mean, that shouldn't be a big surprise. That happens as we get older. Our hips are going to shave down, and that's why you need hip replacement and all that kind of stuff. So that's just part of the gig,
That's why building it up and learning how to get to that flexibility from strength is more important than just going down to a stretch.
So do you have to actually hold on? This is a perfect time. Give me 1 second. Sometimes those scales like to move on its own. Small streamer problems. What were we saying? Oh, yeah. Okay. So do you do any physical, like working out, like body isolation? Like I think you do. I think I've seen you work with bands before, right? So like you kind of work some of the glutes, the hips.
I use my TheraBands and stuff. You can use them to work on rotation and your stretches and all those things. I personally don't use them for that often. I use them for working on articulation in the feet and strength and mobility there.
So focusing on like your dorsiflexion and all that kind of stuff in your feet, like you'll use that band to help you.
Yeah, because you have to be able to isolate the ball of your foot and each individual toe and all those different things. So
that's really cool. Really? So you kind of have to like have this muscle mind to body connection in your toes in a way.
They're like hands.
No, great. No, you're not wrong. Like it's 100% correct. Like no, you're absolutely correct. Now, that's interesting to say because that's kind of hypocritical in the art you do, where you have to wear closed-toe shoes.
Yeah, and that's almost why we do it, because in a shoe that's kind of like a box, sometimes we call them putting on your bricks or putting on your boots, because they're just these things that cover everything. You have to be able to still shape the foot. So if you're wearing something that's very shapeless, you have to have very strong feet and toes that can show the point in the arch of your foot.
So what you're telling me is that you have to be so connected to the foot and just not just connected but strong as well, to where even though you're at a disability with the shoes you're wearing, because no matter what, it's a disability, it's closed most of the time, right? Yeah. You have to be able to perform and be able to really put your foot imprint in there, essentially, is what you're telling me.
Having those strong feet, you have to show the shape. You have to articulate that foot.
That is
roll
ridiculous.
Through the shoe, like it's never just you're on point and then you hop down. You have to go through each part of the foot. So you have to build that strength, because the shoe is naturally going to resist you doing that.
Exactly. Can you feel the resistance in a way when you do that? Like,
yeah, it's good when you do feel the resistance, because it means you are rolling through and not falling down.
Exactly. You're not just looking like a big mess almost.
I feel it when I take class and I don't roll down, like slap down.
Oh man, that does not look good.
Don't watch me.
I'm gonna say, I mean, that is so funny that you say that, because the shoes, like I'm very big on anatomy, if you can't tell, like just the general idea of like your feet, are like hands. They have to spread out. They need to create that arch naturally. And, us wearing shoes is a amazing thing we've actually developed, I'm glad my feet don't bleed when I walk, but at the same time we do this now with our toes. So now essentially what happens is now the bunions happen, especially with women, because
we have those pointy little shoes. I hate those. I don't wear those.
I feel like why do women need to wear that? I was like, I get it, some of them it looks good with the pointy heels and all that, but I'm like,
if you wear them on a day-to-day basis, it's so bad.
I look at women, I'm like, okay, you look great, I understand, but that's gonna hurt later on, because you've seen it, where we work, you kind of see like older women, and you can see like their pinky, like kind of like over here, and you're like,
I don't want that.
Oh, you don't want that.
That's just from regular shoes. So with dance shoes that are so tight, I wear toe spacers so that doesn't happen to me.
You're saying all the right things to me, and I'm loving it. Okay.
Yeah. So we have these little gel inserts that are, just go right in between. It keeps it from pressing in.
All 5?
No, I just wear it between the big toe and the rest, because the other ones don't get enough pressure to really
Okay. So you don't really need to focus on that.
Some people wear it between the pinky toe and the fourth toe as well.
I'll just say wherever feel the resistance.
Need it for your foot.
Okay, got it, yeah.
I recommend, like, sometimes when you go to have a point shoe fitting with the person who knows all about the shoes, they'll say, oh, your toes are all tight, so you don't need it because they're not going to get compressed anymore. I still recommend all my students to get the spacers regardless of if they have a lot of space between their toes or not, because the shoe is still going to press in those joints regardless.
Yeah, no matter what you're saying.
So I tell all my students to get them, and I've worn them as long as I've had point shoes, and it's definitely helped. Like, you get, of course, stronger joints, and they're gonna show because you're using them so much, but they're not being pressed in dramatically, and your feet aren't the horrible images people have of the dancers' feet online. You type in point shoe feet, and you get all these blistered and
that is a common
feet.
That is a common. I think I asked you that too. I was like, is it true that like they're all blistered, they're bloody, they're toeless almost, or nailless? I should say.
Sometimes you'll go through a rough patch where you're just doing so much, and your toes are just like all blistered up. But in general, they don't look horrifying. They look normal.
Okay. I mean, I think what would matter more is the care after.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they build up those calluses.
Exactly.
They look fine.
There's a huge correlation with what you're talking about into like Olympic lifting and those kind of. There's a huge correlation.
It's all how your anatomy works.
No, I could definitely see that. So they make these shoes, right? That might help you out. They're you probably heard the company. It's called Vivo Barefoot.
They have this like the separate like places for your toes.
They have those as well.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. You kind of strengthen them individually. Because what will happen is if your toes don't get that exercise, your arch gets lost, and what happens is, so this is your foot, you're supposed to be like this, right? And it will just naturally flatten out and it'll cave in. So what happens is
arches,
exactly. So what will happen is your knee is now going internal. Oh, wow. So now your IT band is going exactly. So there's people who say everything starts at the feet, which I get at the same time, but I like to say that the hips are the most important part. Yeah. But I would think that's just more of like, your anatomy and what affects you most and what your weaknesses are.
True.
Because you even said it yourself, as a kid, it's easier to work with kids because they're brand new. They have, everything is correct. Like everything is correct. They can't really do nothing wrong unless there was issues through the delivery, through birth, which happens a lot, by the way. So like, if you pull the head a little too much, you can give a baby scoliosis that way, So let's be careful. But I would say that the hips are the most, dangerous part for us, at least in this era, because we're used to sitting at home, working, maybe gaming,
and
us
people
degenerates.
Don't move their hips, they just sit forward all the time, and then they try to open up, and it's so painful. And
you ever see people get up out of the chair and they're like, and you're like, bro, you're like 30, bro. Like, what's going on?
You're not old. No
exactly.
Excuses.
No, I understand. I'm starting to feel that now. So the reason why I was sick is I got salmonella, E. coli, and then corona.
Oh my
I got all that, okay? A triple whammy. Yes. Yeah, your face says it all when I found out.
What a great 2021.
I know, it was great. I was sitting there and I was like, I'm good, my girlfriend's mom in the other room, she has lupus, so she has an autoimmune disease. So we've been super careful. We try, we haven't been out. We take it very serious because she's on that list where she would actually be very bad. So I took it very serious, and I got salmonella because I went to Trader Joe's and I bought. I shouldn't have said that. Fuck. Not Trader Joe's. I went to another market that have food, vegan food that I eat predominantly. So I had bought truffle chips. And if you know me, I love potatoes. Anybody who knows me says I love fries, sweet potatoes. Any potato, I'm eating it. I swear to God. Give me a bag of chips, I'm scarfing it all. Okay, you're not getting any, no matter what. Okay. So I have this ritual. I don't even care if I'm on a diet, if I'm in a deficit. If I go to a store and I see a bag of chips, I'm getting it and I'm eating all of it before I get home. I bought a bag of truffle chips. My girlfriend had a couple. Oh, I know. Same. So I give my girl a couple and I have the whole of the bag. Yeah. Yeah, I know. She's the only one who gets a couple. So I eat the whole bag. And that night I break out in a fever. So I have a Whoop strap. So it lets me know in the morning, what my heart rate is. It'll let you know if you're getting sick. Say your heart rate's going up, you may be getting your immune system shot. So I woke up in a fever, and it was letting me know, like, my heart rate was out of control. I was like, what did I eat? I'm in trouble. Next thing you know, I'm in the worst pain of my life. I had E. coli, and the strain that I had was more, I guess you would say, abdomen. The best way they described it is kind of like having contractions.
Oof.
First of all, fuck all that. Okay, if that's anywhere, I'm sure that does no justice to women when having a baby. But
so now you have some sympathy.
I've always had sympathy for women, but like that just like really like I'm like, no, I don't want to. I'm glad I'm a guy, because I was a baby, man. It was bad. It was painful, and then the salmonella was the worst. So, then I went to the ER, and because I was going back and forth to the ER, home, giving samples, I caught corona.
Oh, my God.
Because they had to separate me with corona people because I fell under the conditions of corona. So, and those, they don't, you know what? No, first of all, hold on, let's talk about something. They do not take it serious in the hospital because those guys are supposed to wear masks in the hospital, and they take it off.
What?
And most of them are homeless. They take it off and they nap. They won't tell you to put a mask on if you nap, and they knew that. So they would pretend they were sleeping. So they're just coughing out there, and there's only one seat sometimes, and you got to sit where they tell you to sit. So I sit there, and this guy's coughing next to me.
I feel like the hospital would be so strict on that.
You think they would, So I got it, and I got it there, and then I was out. So now, and what took me longer to come back, I could have came back 2 months ago, right? And this all ties in, trust me. So what they gave me was, listen, we cleared you for E. coli and corona, but we don't know why you still have salmonella. And I was like, oh, that's not good. They're like, we're not supposed to give you antibiotics when you have salmonella, but we didn't know you had salmonella. We thought you had E. coli and you kind of need to have it. So it makes the shedding process longer, and we think you have it chronically. I'm like, okay. I don't have the issues internally, so meaning I'm not running to the bathroom all the time or any pain when I eat or anything. That's all good. Trust me, I'm good. I get that question a lot if you haven't gotten that. But they're like, no, you have inflammation in your joints now. So now I'm sitting here at the age of 26 feeling like I'm 50. That's why I had to drop down to 1 day a week, because I went from being off my feet for 3 months and pain in my joints, and me having to sit. There's this weird thing. You shouldn't sit that long, but you kind of have to for your joints. Then you go to work 9 hours straight in. And then
I got lazy.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's bad. They're like, no, you're getting more inflammation in your knees. So that's why I had to drop.
You always loved to being active in
general. Exactly. So that's I went from 100 to 0 real quick. So that being said, is now I'm sitting there and I'm like getting up. I'm like, man, I could not fathom people living like that. Getting up out of chair in pain with their joints, just sitting there. And that's why I take that mobility and flexibility very seriously. I'll be out of it. I know too much.
Like, you have to keep moving your whole life, and you can keep doing it till you die when you're in your 90s if you just keep consistently moving.
Exactly. No, without a doubt. And everybody's seen that old man at the gym who preaches that. He's sitting there, he's coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning. No
excuses.
Exactly. So I've taken a very big serious jump on telling people, like, listen, try to focus on mobility. And it's not even that. It's like in the gym, a lot of people are very like, gym bro head is very real. Like, it's, I don't care what anybody says. I started off like that. Like, bro, like, I got to get against fuck stretching. It doesn't matter. Like, no, it matters. Trust me, because I went a long time without stretching after, not even really before, it's after, because believe it or not, stretching before a lift is actually, you can do quick stretches, but you don't want to do complete static stretches because, like I said earlier,
you stretched it all out.
Exactly. There's no more buoyancy that's going to come back. There's no more bounce back. So you're actually doing yourself a disservice. So it's important to stretch after, which I never did. So I realized, that's why I know so much about the anatomy and why I took it serious, because I developed SI joint issues and all that, which I wanted to ask you, what tools do you use essentially as a dancer that you recommend to your youngins to use for flexibility, mobility, and releasing tight muscles?
Yeah. I do a lot of cross training, like using yoga and Pilates to work things differently.
Done yoga, never Pilates.
Yeah.
I heard that is tough.
Both very good for you to build strength and flexibility at the same time. A lot of safe ways to get flexibility is to actually do it through getting stronger. So working on not just, you have to do your stretches, of course, but working on being able to just lift your leg just a little bit higher, because that's your muscles, like almost like a little drawbridge, pulling it a little more. Now I can lift you up.
Yeah.
Instead of just diving into big stretches, because that teaches your muscles to react by contracting. Oh, that was too much.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they get tighter and
I can see
worse.
that.
So we do a lot of cross training. And then when they're warm, we'll do our starting your lunges, do your hamstrings, your quads, and then do your splits.
How long does that usually take? This is a warm up you're explaining?
So in their class structure, we have bar and center, and bar is starting from your smaller movements, all like just bending your knees, stretching your feet, all the way up to your big
micro movements. Yeah.
All the way up to your big kicks, so your grand bat ma. Kicking as high as you can. And then after that, we'll do our stretches on the floor, like doing your splits or your hand grabbing your foot and putting it above your head, those kinds of stretches. And if they need extra things, like I'll work on their hamstrings, because everybody tries to skip the front because we have to extend our legs all the way in front of you, to the side and the back.
Jesus Christ, that sounds painful for me.
And nobody likes the front. They all go straight to the side.
Because the hamstrings are naturally tight, you feel like?
They're just tighter. It's just harder for people to get flexible there. So we do a little bit extra on our
I would assume that's probably due to school and sitting at home a lot.
Yeah, and so I have them lay on their backs and put their foot like this on their knee and then hold their hamstring.
There you go, yeah.
Out. And then also they'll stretch this leg, one leg up, and hold their like calf or their ankle. And then when you inhale, you really push into your hand, and when you exhale, you bring it in.
Yeah, okay.
Work on those kinds of things.
So is this stuff that you've naturally learned and you kind of just pass down on?
Yeah, just learned from my own teachers.
I've noticed that usually there is no, like, you don't really need schooling, right, to train or to like teach somebody. There's no like certificate. Like, it's not like you can't be a nutritionist without a degree.
Yeah. I mean, certain techniques and schools will require certification depending on the kind of curriculum
you're teaching. Exactly. So it's all about the label, right? What you're teaching.
If I was to teach Royal Ballet training, like RAD, lots of times you have to be certified. Or you can be certified to teach for ABT school, their specific way of teaching things. It's all similar, but you have slight differences depending on your school. But then other than that, for most ballet schools, you just have to show that you've had experience and that you know what you're talking about. They'll observe you teaching a little bit, but you don't have to have a degree.
Well, I kind of like that. I like that a lot more, because I feel like school's a little bit overplayed on certain things.
It comes down to, can you do it? can you do you actually know what you're talking about?
I mean, look at football players, football coaches. Football coaches are in no shape, and they usually don't have the same career as their actual, students that they training in on the football field. So usually you're like, okay, you don't really need to do the actual physical activity to know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and then in dance it's even better because most dance teachers have had that career first or currently.
I was gonna say that. I feel like in the dance, usually the only way to know dance and to teach it is by actually doing it.
Yeah, because you can't just, I'm only going to be a teacher.
Are there fakes in your industry?
I don't think you can get away with it. It's pretty obvious.
Has there been fakes?
I don't know. Not that I've come across.
You never seen anybody who like, this guy or this girl's a little...
I feel like it's only in just studios that don't go that far because it just doesn't work.
Okay,
it's pretty obvious when you don't know what you're talking about.
Good. If you can't tell, like in the martial art world and especially in the lifting world, there's a lot of fakes out there, like a lot. They're just these kids have never stepped on stage, and it's really not about stage, or they never brought their body to the actual limits, and they're like 19 and they're sitting there and they're like, no, this is what you need to eat: chicken breast, white rice, and broccoli. It's like, no. You don't need to eat. That's an old man way of thinking. Even Arnold admit like that is not a good way of thinking, So there's a lot of fakes in those industries I'm in. I was just curious, wondering if you have fakes in your industry.
There's always different perspectives, and sometimes
outliers.
People have like outdated methods that other teachers might be like, okay, I think they're a little bit stuck in a past generation.
Okay.
So it's not that they're fake, but some people need to understand learning. Research.
It's almost in a way.
Yeah, you have to always be learning. Like when you teach, it teaches me so much.
It sharpens your blade.
Forces me
it sharpens your blade.
Stay on top and know what I'm talking about.
No, without a doubt.
Questions, and then you get, people. You have accountability because if you put a show out there, lots of people are going to see it, especially, and other people in your field are going to see it, and they're going to tell if you're not teaching them
without
correctly.
A doubt, exactly.
And then for my own dancing, people are going to see if I'm not being trained properly.
Exactly. When time comes, you will be shown if you are what you say you are.
Social media is a big part of that too.
Very nice, especially now. Everyone's like so on edge of trying to catch everybody off guard, almost in a sense. No, that's cool to know that you never want to have that issue because there's nothing worse being passionate about something that you truly stand by, right?
Yeah.
And you're just seeing something being tainted on a huge level.
Yeah.
So like, especially like I said, in the lifting career, it's just horrible. It's just so bad. And you just sit there. It's bad. No, it's for quick money. That's all it is, like you said. And usually they do get caught, and then, but they got their money.
Injure a lot of people in the meantime.
I fell under that. That's why I take it very serious because, YouTube is such a great platform. But at the time, there were so many outliers. So like you sit there and you watch and you learn. You think you're doing the right thing because this guy says it, and you kind of see the body that he wants or the gains that he's received, and you go for it. And you're sitting like, no, man, like, you should warm up. No, you should not put 225 pounds on the bar and go straight for it. You should kind of add a little weight. You should do percentages, and then you're sitting there wondering why your back is tweaked and all that at the age of 20-something. So I've seen a lot of friends go down just at a young age already with that issue. So
that's why it's good when you're interested in something, like really research it and delve into it because you're going to hear all these different viewpoints.
And that's why when you said that,
exactly,
when you said that you're sitting at home watching for hours, I could not appreciate that even more. That's how you can tell someone's passion when it's on your mind 24/7. This is what I say is when you need to find another hobby to distract yourself from the first hobby, that's how you know you're kind of in love with what you're doing. You know what I mean? So I mean, like, that's the same way I've kind of fell in love. So that's good that you do that because you're always learning. You're sharpening that blade, and it helps you when you help someone as well, right?
It teaches you when when you can teach it. You know it.
I'm not a personal trainer or anything. So I have a couple friends. Growing up, they noticed that I was doing very well for myself. Because little story on me, I was about 200 pounds, even shorter than this. This is like this is before I was 18. I was like 200 pounds, 16. I was a manager at Boston Market, and I'm sitting here and I'm like smoking cigarettes for some fucking reason, like almost a pack in 2 days. I'm having a hard time breathing. I can't, like, my girlfriend hates me. We've been dating forever, and she just doesn't like it. I'm like, man, I'm 16. I'm fat. I'm short. It looks worse. I'm smoking cigarettes. I'm eating out 4 times a day because I'm making manager pay, but living with my parents, so I just cut it all out. I went good, and I changed my whole life for that. But I trained people along the way. Not like I'm a personal trainer. Like, if you want the same results, I can kind of help you out, but you won't fall into this shit show that I fell into in that way. And then I realized, whoa, this helps me. Like, when I'm training somebody else and I'm sitting here and I'm like teaching, I'm like, oh, I forgot about that.
Exactly.
Or I'll see that they'll even teach me something new sometimes. I'm sitting there and I'm like, wow, I guess that is true. I guess some people are like that. You are the exception.
You come across different kinds of people, and it forces you to learn, like, oh, this body has to work this way.
Exactly. So you're not just helping someone else. You're helping yourself.
Yes.
And anything you do, you want to help other people because it helps you. It's a selfish and not selfish thing at the same time.
It's just
exactly.
a giving thing.
Giving and receiving. It's all it is.
So much.
Exactly. It helps you in the end, and it also helps them.
Yes.
Gives you a good conscience on yourself in a way as well. You're like, man, I'm giving back to this thing.
But it always comes back to you.
Exactly.
Well.
No, have you ever ran into somebody who just like didn't believe what you were like saying in a way? Maybe not believe, but questioned
just
your
kind of like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
I think I can't think of anything right now because I come in prepared for my classes. Some people like to teach just they're so experienced, they just off the top of their brain, they'll come up with a combination and they'll do it. And I do that a good amount, but I like to, before I teach, just come up with a basic outline in my class, kind of know what combinations I'm going to teach and why I'm teaching them. So if people have questions, I already have an answer ready about why this works, how the body works for this, and why it's necessary. So, and then they'll try it out and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I see that. So I haven't really had any...
Really?
Heat for that.
No, man. I'm always comparing my world to other people's worlds. I like to figure that out because I see your industry as I feel like it's cherished almost, like your industry you're in. I feel like there's such a high reputation for people to really look at it, and they cherish it a lot because I feel like you guys get a lot of heat from other outside viewers. So like, oh, ballet, what is that? Like,
just
oh my God, it's such a woman's sport. And then like, you hear a guy goes in there. Exactly. And like the guys will go in there and they'll be like, no, this shit's hard, As I mean, we all start off ignorant at some point, So I feel like you guys take, because you're so small in a way compared to others, even though you are growing, that I feel like you guys take it very seriously when people are talking about you and your sport that you do.
It's very personal.
Exactly. Because I feel like it's I don't know. Maybe it's just where we live. Maybe, like the U.S. in general. Maybe it's not like a culture. Maybe it's more of its culture thing, Because you said London, and I feel like that would be
in
more.
Europe,
that's an uncomfy seat, isn't it? Trust me, you can tell me the truth if it is. It's okay. Oh yeah, it's horrible. I'm sorry. I let me ask. How do you guys know each other?
We've been friends for a while now. We met at a church.
For those who can't see, she brought a friend. Sorry.
Yeah, we have an audience. We met at a church we both used to go to when we lived further north, and I met her brother one day, and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna introduce you to my sister." And that day on, we've just been really good friends. So. Yeah, she's my best friend. That's for life.
So you guys. I don't know if you guys were in the same industry. Like,
nope.
If you guys met,
we're completely different fields.
The way she left, she's like, me, no, never, no,
but
not a chance.
She's heard me talk about it so much. She has a good
talk about it a lot.
She
talks about it a lot. That's all she does.
I feel like we were just talking about it this morning. You're like, oh, that confirms I will not dance. Like, what were we saying? Oh yes. I sent her a video of me doing contemporary earlier this week.
What's contemporary?
It's a.
Sorry if you explained it and I don't remember.
It's style of dance. It's kind of a mix between ballet and modern. It's more relaxed ballet, so it's not so strict technique. You can move more parallel and more grounded.
Looser for you. Mm-hmm. Is that more freedom in a way for you to express yourself in a way?
Yeah, it's a little bit more freedom. It's not so structured.
Okay, all right.
Because you can definitely have artistry and freedom within ballet, but you can really express a lot.
Well, if anything, that sounds like you would kind of want to do that then, right? Because, it's not so structured.
Well, I was telling her, I showed her this little video of me doing contemporary. I said, this is a very basic combination. It was, very simple, but it was really fun. She's like, if that was simple.
Oh, I see where this headed now. I get it. You're like, wait a minute. I definitely can't do this now. Okay, that makes sense.
But it's just like a language. You just have to hear it a few times and be in it, and then it starts to click.
Okay.
So it's not like, oh, I could never do it. It just looks complicated. Of course it does, because you're on the outside of it. I used to be like that too. When I first started ballet, I'd be stressed out watching everybody copying them. I had no idea what was going on.
Do you feel like you've grown? Like, is there a potential max out? Like, is there a max you can hit? No, you feel like there isn't.
Teachers always remind you, like, ballet is, no one can be perfect, and ballet is the search for perfection. So no matter how good you are, there's always something more you can bring to it and get out of it and change, So
will age eventually? I feel like age does hit you at some point. Time always gets us in a way.
Unfortunately, with modern advances in like what we know about our bodies now and how we can cross train and what's good for your joints and all this kind of stuff, careers last a lot longer than they used to.
Exactly. Don't you kind of feel bad in a way? Like you kind of got it good almost?
I'm happy. I'm lucky. Yeah.
I know. I think the same thing. I'm like I said, I feel bad. Like when I see my mom wasn't bad, but like my adopted father, he's got metal rods in his back and stuff. And like no one went and told him what he could have done to prevent the issues.
The natural ways we can
exactly.
heal.
And now what we're exposed to now and the learning we do, there's so much to us. I said to I feel bad for the previous generation. You see all these older people walking in our current employers area. Second time I did this well. All right, great. So they walk in and they're just, you're like, man, that looks horrible. Like, and you're just sitting there like, only if you knew what we know, you would be able to walk like you're in your 40s instead of your 70s. You know what I'm saying?
I definitely feel very lucky to
If I could just go back in time and give an old person or just like a middle-aged person before they're old, like a Tim Tam, like a Theragun,
Oh, yeah.
and be able to give them that. Well, by the way, have you ever used one?
Those little I've used them a couple times, not a lot. I need to own one.
I'll show you. It's what I use every day.
Oh, you're so lucky you have one of those.
The best investment. First of all, expensive, $400. Okay,
that's why I don't have one.
They make other smaller ones though, but this is the best because it's made by Tim Tam. He's a former jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's a Gracie actually. Is he a Gracie? Damn, sorry. But he's very reputable, and he made this for people that have issues in jiu-jitsu or any kind of martial art, because like you said, like there are muscular things you need to train, isolate, release and tension. That way you get that extra mobility, that we can lift your leg up in a way where you can, I know it's going to sound weird, but lift your leg up in a way where you can put it around another man's neck and choke him to death in a way, So there's that. But this thing is amazing. You should get one. I'm being serious. So there's 3 levels.
I should invest in that.
No, trust me, it is a game. So you should know of all people that lacrosse balls, right?
I use it every day.
Exactly. But they take time. They take a little bit of time, and especially if you're tight, if you miss maybe a couple days, a spot, exactly. It could take time, and sometimes we don't have that time. Sometimes, you miss breakfast because of it. I think the battery's dead on us. It is. I haven't used it in a while, if you can't tell. But that has 3 levels to it. It's all about speed, and there's a heated tip. So what it does is it actually goes up to, I forgot the degree it goes up to, but it warms up the muscle as it's hitting. So it kind of warms up. And there is this one attachment. It's for TMI. Or TMJ, too much info. You put it on and it vibrates. It doesn't really go forward. It just vibrates to loosen up the time. Exactly.
Nice.
Especially for me, like my jaw's all fucked up. Like it's just like it's out of place. I get bad TMJ. It like you ever woke up in the morning and yawned and your yawn's just stuck for like a minute. Like I've literally sat there. Like my girlfriend has turned around and seen my like me just like, and I'm like trying to get it back in there. It's horrible, scariest thing in the world. But invest in it. I'm telling you. But if I could just give that to somebody, like I even did that to my mom and she loved it, So what we have to prevent a lot of these, to preserve our youth essentially is a lot better, So I feel like we're seeing
very fortunate.
We're seeing a lot more longevity in our sports essentially,
Yeah,
and
careers are definitely lasting a good decade longer.
You think so because of it? You can see it coming in a way. Like how long do you see yourself? Like you're going to give me the answer like let me cut you off. You're going to give the answer forever. In a way, I'm going to go till I'm forever.
Of course, yes. There are
but
definitely
in your prime, in your best days,
where I could be paid to do it.
Yeah.
I would see myself at least into my late 30s.
That's good.
40s.
That's a really good age.
Yeah.
That's longer than most sports. That's really good.
There's some, world-renowned dancers who haven't retired till their early 40s.
What do they usually do after though?
They usually become directors or teachers, choreographers.
Do you feel like you want to go that route?
I mean, since I already teach, that would be very natural just to
fall into that.
Can just consistently always teach. Yeah.
Is that what is there like a main goal you kind of have, or are you just playing it by the ocean? Like,
I'm always open to what comes up, but that's a good way to vision right now, is to dance professionally and teach consistently, but make dancing my number 1 priority as long as I can, depending on what life circumstances come up. But then when that's not, that easy to do anymore, then just focus on teaching. Maybe in that time of my life, I'll take on more of a leadership role in the company as well.
That's good. So you do have a set goal kind of in a way that you definitely want to make this a career in a way.
Yes.
And your parents know about this and all that stuff, and they're supportive with it?
Completely. They love it. Yeah.
Do they really?
Yeah. And I make my living doing it, so it works.
That's good.
Sometimes it's, a lot more effort to make sure you have things lined up, but it's worth it.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're happy, right?
Yeah, I feel so happy doing it. every day. I don't feel drained. It makes you feel better.
It's different when you work for something you don't like our employer, right? So where you go, right? And you sit there and you're just dreading it. The time. Yeah, and you're sitting there for 10 hours a day and you're just sitting there like, why am I here? I don't want to be doing this, but you're getting more money almost sometimes, and you're sitting there, depending how long you've been with a company. But I make a lot more money there than I do here. Let's put it like that. So, I'm sitting there, and out of the whole entire time I was sick, out of my mind, just horrible, in pain. I had more mental enjoyment than I ever do at that place.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is like, that's why it was a blessing to me. I was like, because I knew I wanted to leave at some point, right? I knew it was there, but this kind of like, wait, I just paid rent for 3 months without work.
Yeah.
Why am I there for rent?
You have to live your life.
Exactly.
You can't wait till you're retired.
Exactly. So, I bit the bullet, did all that. And, I could see why, if something gives you enjoyment, even if it takes a little bit more money to make sure there is, or a little bit more time to get the money,
And this one, it takes a lot more effort to get there. But in the end, I mean, obviously with our employer, you can do lots of options, but I make much more money doing what I love.
That's good.
The only downside is that things like COVID showed me it's a lot more susceptible to falling apart in the mean.
Exactly.
Things like that happen.
And, not saying I'm like the best person for financial advice, but always have a second income or third income, so like for me, it's gaming, streaming, if people enjoy what they want, they branch me out, the podcast, clothing brand, everything that gets tied in together. If one gets shot out, there's always something to kind of there. Even real estate with my mom, I'm sitting there. Exactly. So just in case because that did show a lot of people like, you're kind of replaceable. You really don't matter. And the government really doesn't care about you at the end of the day, almost essentially. How long did it take us to get like those, checks, those, what were they called?
Stimulus checks.
Stimulus checks. It took us a while. We're not even that bad here. We weren't that bad.
True.
So, I couldn't imagine any other places. So, I would have advised you maybe to even go like, I know you have an Instagram, but you ever like had a TikTok or anything like that?
I've not started that.
It is okay. So let me explain. Horrible, absolutely
horrible.
It's a time sucker. It's not just in that. On the information they receive from you, it is the most engineered app out there where they just know everything about you. But I feel like
people following so quickly.
People want to make money on TikTok. That's not the thing you want. What you want on TikTok is to gain the following. And then pull that to your actual main revenue. Yeah. So, hey guys, this is where this is where I throw the best clips I have, throw them on TikTok. The podcast moments, throw them on TikTok. This is my link. Go to them, and then you'll.
So like a way of advertising.
Exactly, that's your best way to do it. And some people have made a whole entire career just by making one video, one comedy sketch. Because I know you could blow up on it, and I only say that because I have randomly just gone through TikTok in the For You page, and I'm like, I have no idea what this guy's doing, but let me learn about it. I hit it, and I'm following him on TikTok, Instagram, and social media, all platforms. I'm sitting there. Next thing you know, I'm buying a fucking t-shirt from this guy. So I'm like, here, this is a great place for you to advertise. So
true.
I mean, you have a great opportunity to do that because like we just discussed, like your art is so like, I feel like it's like in the dark almost. It's still making its way. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe not over in in other places, but here it's really, really.
Yeah, the U.S. is not quite as focused on dance
it's
and
funny
arts.
It's funny, just to explain on that, is I used to, my other job, I did valet, okay, which I'm coming into right now.
Oh, you're a ballet dancer.
Exactly. And I'm like, no, that's Vashti. What? And they're like, she does ballet? And I'm like, yeah, you didn't know? And they're like, no. I'm like, do you not see her standing at the end of the aisle? Just, and they're like, no, I just thought she was weird. And I'm like,
rude.
I know, but I mean, like, at the
one person when they found out, like, oh, that's why you walk outside of yourself like that. I'm like, that's
outside.
one way to describe it. Turned out.
Yeah. I mean, you do. I mean, have you naturally walked like that, or is that like?
I think that's.
I think naturally that's how you are. Right?
Maybe I don't even remember.
I can't see anybody forcing himself to be that mobile and walk like that every day. You would know if it wasn't supposed. You would have pain. So I think you're naturally just supposed to be like that in a way.
Yeah.
But it's funny because every time I said I worked valet, they say ballet, and then I have to correct them. I'm like, no, that's her right over there, and they never know, and they're like, oh, that makes sense,
That's
and then,
funny.
And they're like, well, what is she? And then they always ask me like I know. And now I kind of know more, so I can explain.
Yeah.
But they'll ask me about you. They'll be like, because you see everyone kind of like, I'm a little bit more social over there with the people I'm comfortable with at our work. So, and they'll be like, well, how long has she been doing it? I'm like,
They should just ask me.
I don't know. She works in your department. Why don't you just ask her? She's so quiet. And I'm like,
what? Me quiet? That's funny.
She's not quiet? No? Did she talk on the whole car right here?
I talk a lot.
Good. No, it's funny.
We are evenly chatty.
Are you? You're evenly chatty? No, my girlfriend's the chattiest on car rides. I have a horrible habit of just being quiet in a car. Like I don't know. Like I blame it on my mom. When I was growing up, she made me. I apparently couldn't sleep as a baby. This is kind of like your diaper story. I couldn't sleep, so she would just throw me in the car seat and just drive around. Exactly 3 times around the block, and I fall asleep.
Driving time.
So if it's driving, I don't want talking. I am passing out. If we go more than I time myself more than 7 minutes, I am out. I am falling asleep. Road trips, not a problem. I'm out. You're not gonna hear me for however long we're in the car for. So my girlfriend's just talking. I'm like, no, babe, I don't want to hear this.
She's gotta listen to something.
She gets mad for sure, definitely. But now that people, now that I've had this conversation, I can definitely, because you're talked about a lot. I don't know if you know that, like in our store.
No.
In a way, because I'm like, I see myself like everyone comes to me like, I don't know if you know Dan left.
I noticed that. I saw they switched it out.
Yeah. He got transferred to another store.
Aw.
Yeah, I mean it happens. That's part of that job.
It's so sudden.
Yeah, it's that day. You get the call. If you're lucky, you'll get a week. I don't
get to say bye.
Well, he loved it because he hates saying bye.
Oh, okay.
So he was out. He didn't say goodbye to anybody. Not even Tom. Not even Tom. Tom got so mad. But everyone's like, yo, where'd Dan go? And they always come up and they're like, were you just talking to that girl in bakery? And I'm like, yeah, I was. And we're like, what's going on? I'm like, she's a nice person. Like, you guys should talk and try to figure out people.
You should come talk to me.
I mean, a lot of people.
The bakery's so lonely.
First of all, it's horrible. Okay, it's like its own little world. I feel bad for you guys.
I mean, I like it. That's why I'm back
No,
here.
you like Michelle probably, right?
Michelle's awesome.
She's a little gremlin. Just call her a gremlin, okay? So it's funny. But, I hope that I can, throw this at them, that way they can figure you out a little more. Because I don't know why, but people are like afraid to talk to you almost in a way. Maybe it's because you are. I think you are a little quiet. A little.
That's so funny because I don't perceive myself as quiet.
Well, I think you're looking at yourself in the way of what you are around friends and people who you're comfortable. Because I think everyone's a little bit more of an introvert before they get comfortable with somebody.
And when I'm at work, I'm also just I have my to-do list in my head. So I'm just walking around getting that done.
Really?
I'm not thinking about stopping around and talking.
Yeah, not like being a fucking degenerate.
I love talking to people, but I guess I just don't think about it unless they talk to me. And I'll say hi when I pass by. No, I keep going.
And I mean it. Like, I've sat there and I'm like, how do people not know what you do when they're in your department? That's why, I'll sit there and I'm like, wow, this is fascinating. Nobody wants to talk, and that's kind of like why I want to do podcasts, because these long conversations aren't done anymore. Like, people cannot sit down. Like, I can talk to somebody and I can see their attention span just go.
Oh, and I love getting in-depth conversations.
Do you really?
If someone works in my department, because my department I work alone, so I'm just used to getting everything done by myself. But if someone works with me, I'll definitely love to talk to them the whole time.
Definitely. I mean, that's why I like my department work, because I'm like in between everybody. Yeah. So I kind of chit-chat with everybody. I figure out. And that's nice. Most of the people I've talked to is from work, and I love it. Like, what's that one woman that works in your in customer service? She just moved from Africa. She's actually supposed to hop on a podcast as well when she's able to. I want to make sure she's 18 though just for legal reasons.
Yeah. I met her briefly before I switched. She's so sweet.
First of all, most amazing girl I've ever met, because the joy she got to moving here from Africa. Yeah. You know what the first thing she told me? Because I generally asked her, so what do you like about here? Do you like it? And she goes, oh, I love it. I'm like, well, what do you love so much? She goes, not having to worry about someone coming in and taking everything that I own. Oh. And I'm like, oh, so you're from that part. Got it. Because we have this stigma of Africa, but there's good parts in Africa, But she was in those bad parts, So when she said that, I was like, I need you in my podcast room right now, because I want to hear everything you went through. Yeah. But she's 17 and she just moved here. I want to give her time and wait till she's 18. That way, she can say what she wants to say. Because until then, she's under her parents' restrictions, Yeah. But
she has a lot of good things to say.
That's what I'm saying. Because people don't conversate, they don't get that ability to figure out about someone.
Everybody has such amazing stories.
It's awesome. I could tell you so much about the people that work in your department, because I generally ask everybody anything. I
love that.
What was that one girl who works? What's her name? Oh no, Paige was friends with Hal. You know Paige.
I just talked to Paige today. That's so funny.
What? How'd you?
Well, I stopped by because the muffins are buy one get one. So
you went back to work. Oh God, I'm gonna throw up.
I had to get them.
No, the muffins.
Yes.
No. So you saw? Was she working in customer service?
Yeah.
Because she has worked bakery. I don't know if she was over there.
Paige did?
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't know that. Yeah, I've only seen her as a cashier.
Really? Okay.
She's been there for a long time.
Yeah, she's been there a minute. She was friends with Hal. I don't know if you remember Hal. Mm-hmm. He was the bald guy that worked in my department. He was a unique person. He's kind of like the reason why, like, it took me so long to get this podcast rolling for a while because there was a lot of things said that were very, like, legally. That's why I had to dive in this legal stuff, like, because, you know, to stream and to record and to put on a website that doesn't fully own your rights for free, because this is all free, right? I don't have to pay anybody. I don't have to pay to put my stuff out there. It's all free. But there is nothing's ever fully free. So they do own some rights to your podcast. You know, either they own all of it or they own some of it or they own what you say. And I'm not okay with that. Like, I want to say what I want to say and I want to talk to you and I want you to say what you want to say without any worry of like, oh, am I gonna, you know, as long as it's not racist or anything like that. But there were things that he had said and he had emailed me and sent me for like the podcast, and I'm sitting there like, oh my God, like I'm getting so much like restraint on this because he's a researcher. I don't know how true that is, because there was this weird moment where I'm like, are you though? I feel like you're an outlier right now, because he was sending me weird things. He was like, I'm the best researcher out there. I only picked this job here because, you know, my industry is just so toxic, which he is, right? That kind of industry of like reporting news and just like that industry is just so like, it's so fabricated. It's very fake, you know what I'm saying? So he was just telling me, and at the time I wanted him so bad because he was on the, I thought, and he might, on the cutting edge of Corona, you know? He was like, no, Corona's fake. And like, I was like, if you say something like that to me, I'm going to pick your brain. I want to know why you think that, and maybe you might be able to persuade me.
I love that you don't automatically assume anything.
No.
Hear what people have to say.
No, exactly. And that's why I love it. There's nothing more, just nothing pisses me off more than when I'm trying to explain to somebody and they're like, no, that's not true. And I'm like, well, how do you know? You didn't get to hear me out.
Have you really heard their side?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, exactly. And I actually credit that to just me growing around women my whole life. Like, I never really had a father figure, so women all around my life, they make you listen, like all the time. Like, you know, they just sit there like, no, listen. Like, my mom would just smack me in the head if I interrupted her or if I just didn't listen.
I'm glad she taught you.
Exactly.
Really
just being able to listen to people gave me the ability to be open to a lot of things, you know. I mean, that's why I went vegan. You know, I went vegan because I was like, well, why do you not eat meat? And then, you know, and I was eating,
they're crazy.
Exactly. I was eating chicken breast rice every day, you know, meat all the way, meat for protein, meat for gains, you know. But, you know, back on topic is, you know, that's what took me forever. You know, I had to switch platforms because I realized, and thank God Hal did that, because I wouldn't have known that website owned the rights to my, I didn't know, because who reads the terms and conditions all the way, you know?
Too much to read.
It's way too much, and they don't know what they're doing, okay? I don't want to hear it. But I sat there and I was like, okay, let me figure another platform out. And then I found Anchor, which is owned by Spotify, and they're like, listen, we say we own your rights, but the only thing we own is the ability to distribute it to our platform, Spotify. You own everything. So I was like, perfect, let me roll off that. And then YouTube is its own little weird role where you gotta watch what you say. So like, I'm gonna have to put censors on for the Corona part that I just said in this part, you know, because it has to do with the pandemic. But you know, that's why, you know, you're actually the first, I think, on YouTube.
Wow.
Everything has been on Twitch. Everything's been on anything else I've done, but YouTube is the first one. I was like, because I promise you, I was like, I have my barber. He's an award-winning barber. He's the best like barber there is out there.
You've talked about him, yeah.
There's anybody who's passionate about their craft like you, I want to hear.
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna learn so much from you, and I wanna. So when and I don't know, I mean, depending on the hairstyle you have, you know, it's mostly women, but there are women who do get fades and all these other things, you know. So they go to a barber. You looked at her. Did she get fades?
She's done lots of cool things with her hair.
Okay, cool. So, you know, it's not just a man thing. It's literally like, it's predominantly with men. I understand. But there's women who I see go in a barber shop and they get like, let me get a skin fade. Let me get this, you know. And there's something special about having a barber, you know, that you don't have to talk to. You just go in. He edges you up and he's consistent. And you see the trophies in the background. And you're paying him, like, like $70 for a haircut, and you're getting the worth out of it though.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to talk to him, because there's this stigma with barbers. Like, you know how many times all the guys at our employer goes, "Where'd you get a haircut?" Like Matt, Dan's brother. Yeah. "Where'd you get your haircut?" "Oh, I got it from here." "How much does it cost?" "At minimum 40. "No, it's too much." "How much you pay?" $5. I'm like, well, that's, I got a $5 haircut. Trust me. That's why you got that. So, that's why I try to shed light on these smaller, like,
I love
darken
that.
arts.
And you teach people what you're worth. Like, someone reached out to me recently, asked me to perform for their wedding, along with a few of my colleagues.
Perform for a wedding?
Yeah, and I've done that before.
That's a thing?
Mm-hmm. I've flown to Texas to perform for people's wedding. Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
People ask for contemporary, ballet, any kind of. It's usually like a contemporary ballet they're looking for, not just like a classical variation.
Okay, I have so many questions. I'm gonna go off this. Okay, so, oh man, here. All right, so I like to be funny, so if I say stupid shit, forgive me. But the people who request that, are they rich?
I
feel like that's a rich kind of thing. I feel like that's a rich thing to do. Like, what do you want for our wedding? I want a ballet dancer. Like, I feel like
I've done it for friends who aren't, but I'm their friends. So
yeah.
But people, complete strangers.
Just say it. It is. I knew it. I fucking knew it.
But yeah. So, but they don't know how to value dancers sometimes. So, we have different ways that we block down our prices. So choreography is one thing in and of itself. Sometimes someone's whole job is just to be a choreographer. So when you create a dance, you charge for the choreography, but then you also charge for the time it took you to make it. And then you have the time to make it and rehearse it. So you have your time spent, the finished product, and then you have your time at the actual wedding. So you're there several hours, and then we have to come up with our costume, either buy it ourselves or make it.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and then
I didn't know this was a part of it, and I was kind of deep into that part.
Yeah,
because we did competitions in hip hop, and I told you before, I got a free ride on that, so I got to see some of that inner workings
boys
of like
get the free rides.
it is, but it's a thing, right? You boys tend to get free rides because it's so rare, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, you don't have to pay us. It's just, please come. Exactly. I got that vibe real quick. Like, I got traveled out to Orlando for a competition, right? It was all women. It was 3 guys. All 3 of us were from high school, right? We all went to high school, and the woman who owned the dance studio sold my mom the original house that we first moved in. So we kind of like knew each other.
Yeah.
She's like, no, just come with us. I'm like, I'm like 15. I don't have a car. I don't have money to pay for. No, hotel's on me. Food's on me. You don't have to pay a dime. And I was like, oh, this is an industry that you kind of need guys in desperately,
we need guys.
And I saw that, but I didn't know you guys charge for it makes sense to have the choreography, because I saw them make choreography. And, at some point, like,
sometimes you can sell your choreography, or like.
What? Sell your choreography?
You can give the rights over to it. So it's like a work of art, when you choreograph something. Sometimes you can be like, okay, this is my work. I have the rights to it, but I can let other people use it, or I can give over the rights to it.
So what happens if you don't? And you see somebody doing it?
Then you could, have some.
Is anything really done though?
I haven't seen that happen though, so I haven't.
I feel like if it has happened, nobody really can decide, all right, I didn't think they would do it, but they did it.
On probably someone like my scale, it wouldn't be worth.
Yeah.
But on big scales, where it's like George Balanchine's company, New York City Ballet, all their stuff is very copyrighted. So if you get caught using it, you are in huge trouble. You will be going to jail.
And I'm assuming, like, even if you record yourself and probably putting it on YouTube doing it, you might get in a little trouble. Maybe not financially, but you'll probably get the video taken down.
If you're making money off of it,
that's what I'm saying, like through ads or something. Yeah, I can see that going on.
There's some choreography that's just general, like classical music. Anybody can use it, and then some of it that's copyrighted.
It makes sense though, because I mean, like, I'm so like, when I talk about myself in dancing, don't take it to like any scale of like, oh, he's got credibility, but like just to like make hip hop choreography with my friends and just it's kind of hard,
Yeah,
it's not at first. It may not be hard because you're just making something up, really. But when you made up so many choreographies, you can kind of distinct. Oh, I did that before. Yeah, I kind of want to be different.
And when you're really proficient in what you do, you know how to make it above the average grade. You can make it really good. You know what you're doing. People have to understand they're paying you for your years of experience of making this above grade. Like, not just, oh, I just made it this little combo. No, this is something that's really nice. But this is your artwork, and then all your time that you spend, and then your commute there, all these things if you're going to do outside gigs. So they have to pay you for that. And this would have been, many hours of work, and so we were our deal was, $500 per dancer for this gig.
Okay. Yeah.
But she's like, I can get some college dancers to do this for $100. And it turned out she didn't know she was talking to my friend, someone I knew. So my friend asked me, this girl asked me to
You're like, wait a
be
minute.
at her wedding. I'm like, this sounds familiar. She's like, do you want to do it with me? And I would be losing money taking it at $100.
So you were
I had to turn it down.
Well, that's not just losing money. I would assume you're just sitting there like, that's like me being not honest with who I am and what I value myself as.
You're not teaching people how to value your art form.
Exactly. Did you explain to her like what had happened?
I did, but
I'm sure you weren't upset. Like, she'd get money.
If she was
she'd
happy
kind of doing it.
I was like,
Exactly.
good for you. You go do it.
Exactly.
And she's in a different phase of life.
But I
than me.
hope
She's
she
not
understands though that where you're coming from, because you shot it down obviously, and I would assume you would because you have value in what you offered her. You're not going to go back on that.
Exactly.
Did she understand? Where
I think she did. And
you think she did?
She does understand.
Okay.
But I hope that over time, when she's out in the professional world, she'll be like, I'm not going to sell myself short either.
Exactly.
So
that's a great way of putting it.
it.
Selling your stuff short. Exactly. I was going to ask you. You kind of already answered it. It was like, did you get anybody try to lowball you who didn't think your value was what you said it was?
Yeah, and so I just, I'd be losing my own working hours taking that job, but for $100 for many hours of work,
This is the biggest issue. This is the biggest. So anything I ever explore or want to hire anybody, like for video editors, for example, when I'm doing gameplay, or if I want something edited for me at the gym or to advertise something, I ask, and luckily, and I'm so happy, those kids that I grew up dancing with found another hobby, and it's video editing, and I go to them. But I want to treat my friends and I want to support them as much as I can. So I always try to know what I'm asking, but before I ask it, I dive into what they're doing so I know the value and what it takes.
Exactly.
Because the worst thing I want to do is disrespect them, and make them feel like I'm, that's no fair. How would I like if somebody went up to me, right?
Yeah, and because sometimes you can be good at your job and do it quickly. Like,
and people are going to be like, that's easy,
It only took you 5 minutes to choreograph.
No, you don't understand the year of what I had to learn to go through that.
Exactly.
And that's just with any art form or any
career, really.
Exactly that, especially, and it's something like you in your profession where there's no, light shed on the background process, because I'm sure you could have this conversation with people and no one would know that for you to get to this 5-minute choreography that you made up on the spot took years of practice for you to even be able to do that.
Exactly.
And that took time and effort, and I'm sure you can make up choreography probably faster than most of your peers or anybody else that who doesn't train as much as you, I would say. So, and that takes time no matter what.
Yeah, because that time that I'm not using now is time that I spent earlier learning that.
Exactly.
Ability.
And even you sitting down at a dinner table where maybe you should have been talking to a friend that was in your room or but you're so deep into watching, and learning, that's, when you're so involved and in love, it affects everybody around you in a way. And I'm sure you've kind of noticed that. I'm sure you've turned down certain family events maybe to practice or anything like that. I don't know if you've done that.
Sometimes I have to for rehearsals. Exactly. I can't go to as many things as I'd like to. But it is important to have your balance for sure.
I don't think. See, that's where I don't think there is balance in anything. That's my perspective.
That's true. You can't be 50-50 at all times in your life.
But you can get fair. I think that's what we're all trying to say. There is a fairity.
Sometimes you focus more on family and friends, and sometimes it has to be more about your career. And that's the balance, not necessarily a 50-50.
Exactly. And it's self-awareness, being okay, so my family or even my personal relationship is suffering right now. So because I'm so invested, maybe... Let me get a break. Let me take this day off. Let me go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What's more appropriate for me to focus on today?
Exactly. But then there's times when you're on the come up, you gotta give all the time.
Crunch time. You gotta do it.
Exactly. So did you ever have to do that in a way? Did you feel like there was cut friends off, maybe cut distractions in a way?
I think it's prevented me from getting out, meeting people outside of it sometimes. Just because you're so involved in dance, your whole world is just the people at your studio. So it's a lot harder to make those connections with people outside of it. So that's partially why I like coming to where we work. Because I'm like, other people I get to talk to. This is nice.
That's great.
I love seeing you guys.
I have the same way as well.
That's actually the main reason I still work there, because I love seeing these people.
It's great. That's I was explaining to somebody, our current employer, we get to see a lot of people and unique people, even just customers,
Oh, yeah.
I just explained there was a girl who just moved from Africa, who just had her whole family just robbed and just horribly done. And quite literally a hut she lived in, quite literally. And I met her like St. Pete, which is fine, I can say that, St. Pete, where all people, like I met a girl from Africa in St. Pete.
I know. People from all over the world. It's amazing.
It's ridiculous. Like Vanessa in Delhi, right? Mm-hmm. She's from Germany.
That's so
cool.
And
I learned so much from her, and
I meet customers who are from Russia, and they'll tell me about their lives.
I was in line actually one time where your name is, you know where I'm going with this. Your name is named after someone famous, right?
Well, I always know I'm named after a queen.
A queen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
An ancient queen in Persia.
An ancient queen, and that's what the lady said, right? In the line one time, she was like, "Oh, your name."
Oh yeah.
I was there. I was literally just walking by, and I was like, "It's such a small world." I didn't know your name was like that at all.
Like, did you know your name is from the Book of Esther in the Bible? Like, yeah, I did. That's so cool that you know that. And people, it starts lots of good conversations. When I was a cashier, people talked to me about it all the time. Either they knew something or they wanted to know. And
so you feel like you get that compliment more through religious people in that sense?
I guess the people with that background already have heard of it, but then people who've never heard of it, they're just as interested. They want to talk about it. And then that leads to conversations about them. And it's so cool just to get opportunities to hear about other people's lives.
It could be just one little topic and one thing you guys share in common that can make an hour conversation,
mm-hmm.
And that's what I was explaining. You agreed, like just talking to somebody can lead in anything. You know, it's important to talk. You learn a lot about everybody just
mm-hmm.
in one little thing.
Everybody has so much.
I would have never had that conversation with you because I don't know your name and like in that way of like what it meant.
People always ask me where I'm from. I'm like, here? Like, what about your parents? Like, they around here? Like,
are your parents religious?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What are you, Catholic, Christian?
Christian, yeah.
Christian? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I went to a Christian school, hated it.
Yeah.
It was horrible. I hated it.
I wouldn't want to go to one either.
It was bad. Just a little pent up kid with like ADHD just sitting there in a chair, It was horrible. It was the most boring part of my life.
Public school, I'm glad I wasn't in because I had so much freedom.
You said you were homeschooled, right? For a little bit?
The whole
Elementary?
time.
Wait, what?
I went to a private Christian school for kindergarten, and then after that I was homeschooled. So 1st grade through 12th. Mm-hmm.
And you're not socially awkward.
Nope.
You're not. Were you ever? Like,
no, I mean, because being homeschooled doesn't mean that you're just in your house all the time. You get involved with different groups. I had a girls club that I was part of. We have these co-ops where you get these chances to go take classes elsewhere, so you make friends there. I went on different trips with people. My mom just forced me to, okay, you're going to go get the groceries today. I'm going to drop you off and you're going to do this and talk to all the adults.
That's good. Wow, your mom's self-aware on what that effect it could have had on you.
Yeah.
Wow, a lot, because, I mean, we all know homeschool kids tend to be a little socially awkward no matter what. And it's not on them. It's the failure of letting them socialize with other people.
You just make sure they have just as much interaction, and sometimes it works out in your favor because you talk to a wider range of people and not just your age
range. You get to see you grow a little differently, So no, that's great. That makes sense, because I would have never known, because I met homeschool. I have tons of friends that were homeschooled, and I know they were socially awkward and they had to work on that a little bit. But when you grow up psychologically, like, because my girl went to she got her degree in psychology, she would tell me all the time why those kids have a hard time socializing. It's because they got no interaction outside of the home, and you kind of need that interaction to develop your personality in a way, so kudos to your mom for that. Push us
out of our comfort zone.
Wow, kudos on your mom. Hey, give her a pat on the back for that. That's impressive. There's not a lot of parents that do that. Now it's known more because everybody kind of knows it and
we're more aware of how it works.
Definitely. Wow, I didn't know that about you. I think someone else where we work was homeschooled. I forgot who. I think they quit, but you could tell. Like, you could see you were homeschooled. I think. I'm not going to say his name, no. It'll get me in trouble, probably.
So you were public schooled?
Oh, yeah, all the way.
You went, Christian school for a short time?
For a little bit, and then I was too aggressive for that. I left. They put me in public school, and then I went 2 different public schools, middle school, all over here in actually Seminole, so I've never really left this area. I moved to Tallahassee for a little bit. Horrible. Don't ever go there. Horrible, by the way.
Yeah, I don't have a strong pull there.
No, I wouldn't. It's very woodsy, very beautiful. Like, it's got nature there, but, as if, socializing, it's just a bunch of college kids, It's kind of like Tampa.
Did you go to college?
I was so close to going to. I just couldn't. I really couldn't. I went to high school. I just cannot focus. Like I cannot sit down and focus. My mind, like the amount of energy it takes for me to pay attention to you, right, and understand and process everything is something that wasn't easy for me. Like I had to train myself.
You do a really good job with it.
Yeah, I had to train myself to be able to look at you, be able to process what you're saying, because in school,
move past it.
Exactly, because like if you ever see my eyes like look off, it's my body naturally getting distracted, going off in another world. So I would realize like, oh, school's not meant for me. My mom used to get so mad at me.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you're dumb if you don't want to go to school. This means it's not
exactly
what you need
to
focus on.
This is why certain characteristics lead to certain avenues. So like people who are more socially like by themselves tend to be really good in school because they're okay with doing that. Like people think like autism is very like what's the word that starts with a D? It's a disability. It's not. It's just another form of being another person and having a characteristic that changes. That. No, yeah, because I have family members that are autistic as well. My best friend growing up in elementary school was autistic, and he was normal and so smart. So I started realizing, I was like, wow, autistic people tend to be smarter than us. And like I've known so many, and I'm confident saying that. I don't think that's a negative thing to say at all. I think it's more of a positive thing because they're more socially like Rory in Meat Department. He's from England. He has Asperger's. You would never know it.
No.
Never know it. He is so smart. And he purposely moved down here because he met his wife online who has Asperger's as well. And he said, I need to be social and I need to get out because I cannot live like this. So let me get a job where it requires me interacting with people. Yeah. And that's why he works there. Aww. So, and because he did that, you would never know he had Asperger's.
No, I never knew.
One thing you know is he got a dry sense of humor because he's from the UK almost essentially, but he's funny as hell. But that's what I'm saying. He's so smart, like another kid I worked with, Alvis, he writes books, and they're great. And he has Asperger's as well. No one knew as well. He just, I don't know. It's just,
we just get this thing in our heads like, oh,
it's a stigma.
Exactly.
So,
we need to listen to people and realize what it's really about.
I mean, so me realizing I couldn't do good in school because I couldn't sit. I was like, no, I got to do something physical or I got to do something that I enjoy that can kind of, hold my attention for longer than 5 seconds. Wow, that's getting annoying. That's how you know it's getting hot. Hold on. There we go. That's happened before, if you can't tell. That's annoying. I'm sorry. Okay. It's just getting hot, essentially. That's why I'm building that right there next to you. So, yeah, this is tell me, I've learned so much about tech. Like, I know how to build a PC now. It's
like such a professional space in here.
This took years of me learning everything. Like I had even just learning how to work that little audio thing right there. It took so long. Like for me to adjust your levels to make sure it's not ringing in someone's ears when you're talking took forever to learn. This whole thing is like just
like one of your passions where you'll watch videos about it.
Kind of, yeah. Anything I want to do, I'll learn as much of it as I can and that just came actually from school. Like I know I'm not going to go to college. I'm not going to. I got to do something, and I'm not going to sit down and listen. To somebody in front of me and just tell me I'm wrong half the time. So I learn best physically. Like if you can show me and put me on the lines, I can learn physically. But that's pretty much with anything in life. That's why I appreciate you going on YouTube and learning everything by yourself.
Yes.
Because you probably learn more on there than anything else, right? I mean,
because you can rewatch it and just see it and hear it at the same time.
Yeah, that
helps me a lot.
Just pass that down to anybody when you're sitting there and you're just like conversating like, oh, I don't know what to do, just learn on YouTube. I remember when YouTube was just cats. Like I would just go on YouTube and watch cats all day. And now it's a learning just center for anybody.
There's no excuse not to learn something that you want these days. Like Google and YouTube.
People don't understand, and that's a little hard to explain to your parents in the beginning. You're like, why are you on YouTube?
You need that piece of paper. So.
Yeah, you need that piece of. It's funny because my girlfriend went to school for psychology, and I told her I knew she wasn't gonna be able to do it. Not pursue it as a career because she never fell in love with it. I didn't see her looking into every night because at the time I was passionate about clothing and learning how to print and all that stuff and learning how to edit videos and all that, so I was just in it. And I was like, no, this is what it's like to fall in love with something. This is what you should do every day if you're that passionate. I didn't see that with her, and I was like, she comes from that typical household where you live in it. What is it, HOA or where your grass has got to be this height, it's got to be this color. So
at 18 you have to know what you want to do.
Her dad knew what college she was going to at the age of 18, and you know what, that's never a bad thing. He's looking out for her daughter. And I would probably do the same thing.
That's what our society says is taking care of your kids, sending them to college.
Exactly. So, and she went to college. She spent all this money, and I'm like, and I had this conversation so many times. I'm like, is this something you really want to do? And she does like it. She loves helping kids and knowing why they're emotionally upset, the trauma they went through, all that stuff. So I saw her liking it, but I never saw her dive into it. And I always put this seed in the back of her head. I'm like, you bake every night, right? You bake a cake, you decorate things, you cook. You ever think about like doing something like that? You on YouTube every night learning about this. You should probably pursue it.
Yeah.
And she got a degree. She didn't want to go anywhere in the field. Guess what she ended up doing? She made her own Instagram. She made a little decoration. She went in competitions. Now she's like a manager over at Valhalla Bakery, actually down the street here, where we make vegan treats and all that, treats. So cool. And she does all that. But now she went back to school because she found something else she loves, which is traditional Chinese medicine. She's gonna be so proud I got that. So now that's what she's doing right now, and she's on that 24/7. So and YouTube, she's learned through YouTube. It's ridiculous on what YouTube can train and like teach you on just a simple platform like that,
Exactly.
And I try telling people that, and they don't understand, and you're gonna be a great. I'm gonna talk to people about it. I'm like, I know this girl, right? That she's on YouTube every night, while she's eating dinner, and she's learning so much, And I'm sure your parents thought you were crazy at first, maybe a little bit in the beginning, but I know my parents did. But
my teachers even said like, oh, I can tell she watches and reads a lot because she's caught up very quickly.
Wait, like ballet teachers? Is that what we call them? Or instructors?
Yeah, ballet instructors and teachers,
Okay, I don't want to disrespect.
When you have a company, they'll have official titles like director, ballet master, all those different. But in a school, it's your ballet teacher. But they would say, I can tell that you've been watching stuff because otherwise how would you have understood how this muscle works? How are you already holding it this way? That's because I watched these videos and I figured it out from them.
Exactly, because you were curious, you wanted to get better. Maybe there was a little bit of a competitiveness in you, like, oh, I want to be better than that person real quick.
I gotta catch up. Yeah,
exactly. No, do you see anybody like that you trained?
I was just gonna bring that up. That's so funny.
Man, I'm so good.
I know you're so good. So there's a student I just started teaching 6 months ago who was 13 when she first started. I'm like, wow, this is me when I first started.
Oh, dude, I love when you run into people like that.
Yes, I'm getting to
they remind you of yourself.
Yes, I'm getting to give what I was given when I was 13 to this other girl who'd never danced before. It's her first class. I'm her only teacher she's ever had so far, and she's just exactly what I did. She's writing all her school papers about ballet. She's learning all about how point shoes are made.
Oh, she's in it.
She's so deep. I gave her one of my favorite books that's like a Bible of ballet, and she's like studies it all the time, and now she'll come up and say things in our classes that she'll say, I read this here, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, that's so cool that you know that, that's awesome.
So he's a little mini you. I've ran into people like that too, where they're just so curious and they're like, oh, you're doing the same thing I was doing. Like, you're in it. Let me help you out a little bit more. So you kind of give them a little even more because now you know more.
You're so excited to help them because you see how much they're into it.
Exactly. And you kind of want to. There's this one kid who's the same way. His name's Carlos. He's my moderator, and I see the same thing. Like we have a little bit more family similarity. Like, he's Mexican. He's, his parents work every day. They're never home. His sisters take care of him. He's an only boy. So I'm like, oh, there's a lot of correlation. And he's curious on gaming and all that. I'm like, bro, let me help you. And he's like, and he's just learning so much as he goes through. Yeah. And it's so good to see that because it makes you want to help because you wish you had that kind of help growing up. Maybe. And they may not see it now, but in the future they'll be like, oh, dude, that guy just cut my time of learning by like a sevenfold,
Yes.
And just to see that you have that as well is a treat. It's a wonder,
it really
isn't
is.
it?
It's such a blessing.
Do they ever look at you like you're crazy sometimes?
The students?
Yeah, they're like,
why are you so into this?
Yeah, exactly. Or maybe like the one you're actually excited to teach. Do they ever look at you like, well, you're kind of a weird lady?
I'm lucky because she's just as excited. She gets it. So
how old is she?
She just turned 14, so when she started, she was 13.
Oh, she started late.
She started the same age I was. That's why I'm so excited.
Oh my God.
It's just like
You're about to help her out so much.
And I'm seeing her improve so quickly.
Is she tall like you?
She's not, so she won't have
some disadvantages in choosing a career, or a company, right?
Yes, there's good things about me being tall. It catches people's eye, I get attention. But
first of all, your Instagram's amazing.
Thank you.
Like it's truly amazing. Like, I see you grab the pictures that captivate what you're trying to show, and I look at it and I'm like, holy fuck, how does she do that? Like, how does she do that? Like, in my head, I'm like, she's on like all of her toes, and my dorsiflexion you can have, but my toes will give out. Like, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy crap. And does your brother do the filming, or?
Sometimes he takes my pictures. He's my favorite photographer to work with because he's patient. He'll let me be nitpicky with it.
Really?
Yeah, and he's kind of similar. He's gotten really passionate about working with cameras and all that kind of stuff. So he just taught himself how to do all those things.
Really?
Yeah.
Is he running with like a DSLR, maybe like?
I don't know what he uses, to be honest. I don't know hardly anything about that.
Is it skinny? Is it big and blocky?
It's bigger.
It's bigger. Yeah, it's a DSLR. Then.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I noticed like there was this guy in your pictures, and I was like, I think that's her brother, because like you would like say thank you and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't post about many people, so it must have been him for sure.
It was. Yeah, I don't see you. Yeah, you're right. You don't really post like a lot of.
I have some of my dance friends in it, but I don't post a lot of personal people in my life. So
no, I've literally just everyone does Instagram creeping, Facebook creeping, and I'll see your story, and I'm like, what is she posting in a while? And I'll go through, and next thing you know, I'm like 3 years back in your Instagram, and I'm like, holy shit, man! Like this is so good. Like I'm like, that's just me being curious. That's just me being curious.
So people can.
No, people are a little shy to pull that trigger sometimes on their passion, because they feel like they're being judged.
Yeah.
You know, but that's never the case. You know, you're just here to like show your art in a way and show who you are.
My mom actually was the one who convinced me to get Instagram.
Because you were the same way, probably, right?
Well, I was just like, I don't need Instagram. I don't need something to be distracted by. I don't want to. And I have my.
That's discipline, though. That's all discipline.
Yeah, I don't need to have that. And she's like, well, people can notice you from Instagram. You could get some opportunities from that, because sometimes people are ambassadors for different programs and stuff. Maybe you could at least get it for that reason. And it's so funny, because my point shoe brand that I wear, I decided to basically.
It's not Gator, right? Or,
Gator Minden.
Is that? God, I'm good.
Yeah,
Let's
you are.
go.
You know what you're talking about.
I know. I'm so good. See, I'm getting there. All right, continue.
But so I had been doing Instagram for a few months and kind of built up some photos, and auditioned basically to submit an application to be one of their ambassadors. They choose dancers who wear their brand from a very specific category of training and time that you've been dancing all over the world. They'll look at your application, decide if they want you to move on to round 2. So they monitor how you post all summer. And so I got into that. So they monitored how I posted all summer. The first year I had Instagram pretty much, and I didn't make it to the final round. Like, oh man. But I tried again the next year. And I
saw that. That was just recently, right?
Yeah. And I got the ambassadorship. I think they chose 40 people around the whole world to be ambassadors for the brand that year.
And you got
it. So I was one of them.
It's only a yearly thing, though, right?
That
you have to reapply almost in a way, right?
So you can only do that once.
Really?
And then once you get further on in your career, you can potentially become like a Gator Minden artist or a Gator Minden icon.
Why is it only once, though? What's the reasoning behind that? Because you would think they would want somebody who's consistent representing their brand.
Yeah, I guess
almost as a representative.
The program, they want to give opportunities to new people coming up.
Okay. See, I was going to ask that. Is it for more like they want to give everybody in a bit?
And I think it also makes it's a bigger deal. You have to work really hard to get in. It's not just once you get in, okay, you can relax. Because some other brands, their ambassadors are permanent, and they don't try that hard in their posts.
Exactly. Once they've made it, they're cool.
Good.
Exactly.
So you have to work really hard. It's a short bit of time. They give you a lot of opportunity. So I just think it.
Do you like it like that? Quality. Do you think it? Do you enjoy that?
Of course, I would like to continue being an ambassador. I think, but
you could probably understand why they would do that.
I think it's a good idea. And then once you're well into your career and they still work with you, and you're still doing things in the world, then you can have another opportunity to work with them. So it's not like I'll never get to. I still reach out and talk to them about different things.
And I think you still are you still an ambassador? Or?
So that ended last year.
That ended last year, right? So, but I still see you post about them.
Because they still use my stuff.
Exactly. So, and I'm assuming you're just trying to support and all that. And this is a good way for you to clip this if you want later on. I can clip it and you can ship it.
Yes.
Okay? You can ship it and be like, even talking about it on the
yes.
Maybe you can get that extra leg up that way,
That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. We'll love to support each other. The brand helps you and you help them.
Yeah, and this is great for you. Just I'll clip it for you. You can send it and you tag them in your Instagram. Awesome. That way you can get that. I mean, like I think the most I ever had on a podcast was like 600 viewers, who just, listen and plays, and that's repeated on, but it's a growing thing. But 600, you can get maybe like 10 out of it that are die hard.
That's awesome.
That could do this. That's good. Hey, you plugged it right. Good job. You found the right segue to plug that in there. I was gonna ask you, do you see avenues to be represented like by another company without actually joining that company to receive some form of income?
Yeah, I could apply for other brands and to be ambassadors, and there's lots of different opportunities out there if I wanted to. Right now, I'm not really focused on that too much. It's funny on Instagram, I'm sure lots of people get this, but people reach out to you to be ambassadors for certain things, and it's not all that it seems.
Yeah.
So I save it for things that are really good deals.
No, you don't want to be you want to have value in everything you do.
Yeah. So the Gainer Minden one was a really big
well, that worked on me because when you posted that and I kind of know who you are and I went through your posts, I was like, she doesn't really do this. This must be a reputable company that she stands by.
I don't just do it for anything.
Exactly. And you can tell that when you're going on Instagram. You're like, you go to their story one time, I follow this account, you know, I follow these guys, and you look at them, you're like, do you really wear what they offer? Like the clothes you represent? Do you? I never seen you wear them. The supplements you require, I never seen you take them.
True.
You know, so you're sitting there, so you take very little grain of salt. People can see authenticity through your stuff. You know, some people don't care, but the people you want to follow you are the people who care, because those are the ones who are going to help you in the long run, and you can even help them by telling them a good company that like you're working with on that sense.
And brands like that, they really affect your career. Like your shoes make or break how you feel in your dancing.
Really.
So it's very personal. Each shoe is so individual, and Gainer Minden works really well with you on that.
Really?
So, that's why you get very attached to.
I'm
your
sure
brand.
you're gonna still represent them even even now. You know, you're probably still like just tagging them in or whatever you can. That's a good way for you to do that. I think you have a great opportunity to branch out into like physical, not so much in your industry of ballet, but physical companies. Maybe like Tim Tam, like for instance, because they offer that. You could like so well because you know. You're such a rarity, like in your industry, that companies don't represent, at least physical companies. Tim Tam, Flag Nor Fail, so many other Vivo Barefoot, Move You. You know, these are all great movement and anatomy like profiles that help you function throughout the day. But you never see anybody, you know, who's in ballet represent them.
That would be really cool to get
I would
with.
see that as something for you to capitalize and, you know, give their products a shot, you know, and because I could see you actually being able to represent them because you have great writing, you have great posts, and you have great content just in general. So you have an ability to, I would definitely give that a shot.
That's a really good idea. That's a good idea to look into.
Because like Move You is it's based in California, and they're based on movement, just like functioning every day without pain, you know. And they bring so many they bring in lifters, they bring in dancers, but like more like hip hop dancers. They bring in construction workers, like anybody with movement. But I never seen anybody with ballet, so I've only seen one company do that with ballet, and it's Flag Nor Fail, and they've done it well. And she's her main, like their main like advertisement, because it's so unique. No one looks at it that way, you know. It's a gym brand representing.
They're like, what? I gotta pay attention to this.
Exactly. So that's a great way for you. So it's good to be in a small little niche, you know, in a way, because if you're the first, your value is higher.
There are some big time dancers that do something similar, like Misty Copeland. She represents Under Armour.
Really?
Sometimes if you walk into sports stores, you'll see this dancer wearing all their sports stuff, and that's her. I went to Disney Springs one time. There's this huge poster of her for wearing Under Armour.
Oh, that must have been cool for you because you're like, oh, there's an opportunity. You kind of think in your head like that could be me if I really wanted to, you know, like, or if I really want to, you know. That's great. That's a small niche place you really need to capitalize.
There are a lot of varied avenues you can take.
Well, then that's because social media now. No one expected social media to be an advertisement. Who knew Instagram would be just an advertisement like what you're doing for Gator, right? Like you're just sitting there and you're doing exactly what they want. They're like, you're getting people's eyes on us, you know, and companies see the value in that. So I would really capitalize on that, you know, especially for your future. Just give it a shot, definitely.
Really good idea. Take advantage of social media for sure.
Definitely make a TikTok too.
Yes.
Definitely make a TikTok. I don't see any ballet TikToks at all, like ballet dancer. Sorry, I'm trying to come correct here. I'm trying to be respectful.
You're doing good.
Oh, I'm so good. Definitely. Well, I think we talked about everything. I think we're pretty good here.
You're on top of it.
I'm trying to. It's hard to like keep people's attentions like who are listening, you know. So you got to kind of keep the ball rolling, the flow.
I'm curious how people who don't listen to dance all the time, how it comes across to them.
You have to specifically look for it, and for you in your niche, somebody involved in it has to probably want to be curious like you were to look for that. But when you have somebody who's willing to hear and has a complete different platform that has nothing to actually do with what they represent, is a great way, because you start bringing new people's eyes who are just curious. Like, oh, I was just thinking about that the other day, you know. So it's I try my best to keep the ball rolling, you know, and just keep it flowing, because nobody hates sitting here and just an awkward pause, and we're just in like that's so anytime I bring someone in, I'm always talking to them like, listen, keep it in natural flow, you know, try not to get nervous, do not chew gum in the mic, you know.
I talked about that on the way here. I was chewing gum. I said, actually, when we pulled up to the house, I took my gum out.
Did you?
That's not something I want to do sitting in front of a mic.
Man, unless it's in like a specific ASMR, like kind of people want to hear.
That's the word ASMR. I was trying to think of that. Like, oh, there's a term for that.
Exactly, where people are like this close. I'm sorry, everybody, but they're this close, and they're like, people hate it so much.
And then some people love it. It's so
exactly.
weird.
I hate it when I hear it.
Yeah.
So it's weird because I've had people sit and I'm like, please take out the gum. They're like, I'm like, listen, I get it, man, you know, but trust me, you're not gonna convince anybody. No one's gonna want to listen to that. So I mean, I was getting ready to tell you all these things, but you were just fine, you know, and everything.
You're
so
a great host. It was
I
so
tried
fun.
definitely. So once this is done, send you the link. Everything you can promote yourself. I'll clip some stuff that if you want clipped, send it to you, tag it and ship it. Okay, just let it fly. Okay, and then eventually we can come back here and we can talk again and whatever else you do, we'll keep in touch and all that stuff. You know, I'm only working 1 day a week now, but we have each other's at, so we'll definitely can continue talking about this.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Thank
great.
You so much.